5th, 2017. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a moment of silence. Roll call, please.
Committeeman Lopez.
Here.
Committeewoman Smith Hartman.
Present.
Committeewoman Talisa.
Present.
Committeeman Wisniewski.
Here.
Mayor Daniels.
Here. Thank you. I'd like to call for approval of tonight's agenda. Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, roll call.
Lopez.
Yes.
Smith Hartman.
Yes.
Talisa.
Yes.
Wisniewski.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes, thank you. Regular meeting minutes from May 15th, 2017. Say. Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, roll call.
Lopez.
Yes.
Smith Hartman.
Yes.
Talisa.
Yes.
Wisniewski.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes, thank you. Workshop session meeting minutes, May 15th, 2017. Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Lopez.
Yes.
Smith Hartman.
Yes.
Talisa.
Yes.
Wisniewski.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes, thank you. Monthly reports and communications are posted on the bulletin board out in the foyer. Scheduled appointments tonight, there are none. At this time, I would like to open the meeting to the public for comment on agenda items. They are open. Ms. Berkeley.
Ask some questions about 16A, please. That is the ordinance authorizing the IKEA Drive. Who owns the land right now where IKEA Drive is on?
IKEA actually owns the street. Is that what you're talking about, presumably, the street? IKEA, and I believe Mr. Dolan's here. That's correct, right? That's correct.
So it's IKEA only, correct?
Yes.
Okay. If we take over the land, basically, IKEA now is not going to have to snowplow their land. They're not going to have to fix the road. What are we getting from IKEA in return to me a lot of headaches for taking over their road that they now don't have to put a lot of expense into upkeep?
Well, we're going to talk about that more extensively when we actually get into the resolution. But what I would tell you is that what we are getting from it is a quality of life issue and a safety issue. At the same time, there's an agreement with the builder to look at the road and make sure that the road is conditioned before the township take custody of the road.
But is IKEA going to pay us to take over their road and do all the work that they now presently do?
IKEA feels as though it's in a position that they're donating the road, and that's at this particular point in time. They felt as though in joining and engaging in the negotiations and subsequently donating the road was their commitment to the community in terms of helping mitigate some of the issues that would probably be created on Springside Road.
Do you think IKEA would come back to you and say, now that we own a lot less land, we want our taxes reduced?
I would have no way of knowing that.
That could be a possibility, though, couldn't it? And then we'd lose more money in addition to the money it takes to keep up that road and do snow plowing.
Yeah, I wouldn't speculate.
Okay? The road, as I understand, is not going to be used by residents, correct?
That's correct.
It's going to be used by the trucks. And to me, I would think it's something that Mr. Dolan and whoever's in charge at IKEA could work out between them, because it benefits their trucks, their traffic. To me, I don't see safety-wise, it's going to now be closer to the light, which I don't know about you, how often you should, you live down there. come around Rancocas Road and try to get on to Springside, there's a lot of twists and turns, and it's hard to see. Cars are coming, cars are going, trucks are coming, trucks are going. And if they have to stop short to turn right there, to me, you're going to have more accidents because you're closer to the light. And I think it's a shame because further down, you're not crossing any major developments. It's before all you basically is moving it from one place to another that has a lot of farmland on it. I just think it is. And if you look at Rancocas Road between Springside Road and 295, it's a very short area, but it's completely full of potholes and terrible, terrible, terrible roads because of all the truck traffic. So you say 15 years, you hope that it would last. I don't think that many trucks, if any road's going to last for 15 years. It's going to look like Rancocas Road, which is in sore need of some help. So I am opposed to taking over this road. I think it's going to cost us more money. I think it's not going to help the safety. It's going to be worse because it's closer to the light. And I think it only benefits the people who are having trucks coming out. It does nothing for the residents except cost us money to continue to fix it and snowplow it. And if I could give my 125 feet driveway to the township to snowplow, I'd do it in a second. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Berkeley.
Nancy. Good point.
Any other public comment? Gary?
Good evening, everyone. Gary Woodring, 138 Winstead. Two items on the agenda. Number 9, the monthly reports of communications. I didn't see those posted in the bulletin board. Did I miss them?
There are none.
None?
There aren't any listed.
Is there a reason why?
We only do reports once a month at the second meeting.
Okay, thank you. I do want to talk about, it's item 16A, the ordinance 4-2017. The question I have was, on that ordinance, the fourth whereas clause in there. Now, I'm not an expert. I'll leave it up to you. I'm sure you probably have done the analysis. But when I looked through all of the ordinances, I didn't read them all word for word. I identified potentially 2 ordinances that would be repealed when this gets enacted, or if it does get enacted. Does that track with what your analysis showed? 2 ordinances would be impacted? And I'm specifically referring to 232-14.
I can answer it, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like.
Okay, sure.
232-14 and 232-14.2, subsection I.
As a legal function, when we draft ordinances, what we always include is this catch-all provision here, where any ordinances to the contrary are repealed to the extent that they're contrary or inconsistent. And what that just does is when you adopt a new ordinance, it cleans up your code and makes sure whatever you're adopting tonight isn't in conflict with what's on your books currently.
So the intent of the ordinance is to make the semi-public road a public road, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I don't know. I think it would repeal important obligations that those 2 ordinances both speak to: speed limits, weight limits, obligations of who has to pay for the signage, the maintenance on it, etc. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Thea. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Mr. Mumbauer?
John Mumbauer, 29 Lancaster Drive. Same item, 16A, regarding the dedication or the acceptance of IKEA Drive. When I consider some of the financial obligations that the township currently has that's going to affect the residents, I'm hoping that when the ordinance is read tonight, it includes all financial possibilities as far as who's going to maintain this particular stretch of road. To include, have you as a board done your due diligence to look at the parties involved, excluding the township, whether it's IKEA or another party that may be utilizing this road, and look at everything they can financially do to provide a long-term maintenance plan financially to take care of this particular stretch of road, so that we're not looking at, 2 years down the road, 4 years down the road, if the township accepts this IKEA drive, that the township residents are going to have to pay for repaving or whatever. So I'm hoping that you consider that with this ordinance, that you look long-term with the trucks and the degradation that they could cause on that road, the current condition, with hopes that we can mitigate the township residents' costs regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Mombara. Any additional public comment? I think we have this gentleman right here. And then Mr. Tony.
I suppose I ought to speak up. My name is Paul Scheritzel. I'm legal counsel to IKEA. And IKEA has certain issues which IKEA is happy to discuss. But for the purposes tonight, I wanted to note that on the ordinance, it states that the property is being transferred by IKEA North American Services, LLC. That is, unfortunately, and I apologize, I was not asked to look at this beforehand, that is not the entity that owns the property. The property is actually owned by a Delaware corporation by the name of IKEA Property, Inc. And if anybody has any questions about that, I'm more than happy to explain further.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. Just as a point of clarification, the ordinance was already advertised? The ordinance that's
I don't
up-
advertise it until after first reading.
Got it. Okay, so we have time to make that correction.
Right, you don't, until it passes the first reading, do you advertise notice of the public hearing, which is done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Curran?
Good evening, Janet Curran. On the resolutions, Council, F, 8917, authorizing the deed block 604, Lot 3, for 21 Blue Jay Road, owned by the West Hampton Township. Some time ago, the township purchased with open space money 2 homes, one on Blue Jay and one on Church Road. This is saying property known as 21 Blue Jay Hill Road, owned by West Hampton Township. What does this detail? What are you trying to do with this house? With Green Acres,
Yeah.
that we already purchased it? Are we trying to get something more for it? This is included in with Timbuktu. Am I right?
I'll let Maria answer that. Thank you,
I'll
Ms.
answer
Curran.
that for you, Ms. Curran. Yes, we did purchase 21 Blue Jay Hill in conjunction with the Green Acres program, which is a state program, in order to get for Timbuktu development, whatever, I'm not sure what the long-range plans are for there, but going into specifics of the Green Acres plan, there are certain conditions the Green Acres put us on that we have to follow by June 15th, and that is the demolition of the house, the decommissioning of the well, and the decommissioning of the septic system, as well as the deed preparation, which Solicitor Marmero did for us. So this resolution is to support that, so that next week I can get about, I haven't figured it out yet, but we'll get at least $12,000 from the demolition. We'll get a portion of the surveying, and I think we get like 50% of what we paid the purchase price from. We'll get that all reimbursed, and we'll go back to our open space fund.
Going back into the open space?
Yes, we use those open space funds to purchase, and we'll get the reimbursement back to the open space.
Okay, but we don't have any plans at this time.
Yeah, I can't speak to the Timbuktu
With what we're
plans.
gonna
I
do
think
with
they're
the
still under
house.
development, but
Okay, it's
we're
just
anxious to get
sitting
them
there.
before the committee.
Okay. And Mayor, on the ordinances B5 2017, again, that has to do with a sale subject to terms of redevelopment. Does that happen to be, it says block 401, so I don't have a map, so I'm not too sure where that is. Ordinance authorizing sale of block 401, lot 201, first reading. Where is that located?
This would be the Engerman.
It's on Woodley Road. That's
The Willows at West Hampton. The issue that was subject matter last Wednesday.
Okay, so the ordinance authorizing sale of Block 401, that's just being done now with what we already have on Wood Lane Road? Is that on Wood Lane Road?
That's
Am I
correct.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and we're just authorizing this first reading tonight for redevelopment on what issue?
Want me to address it? So under New Jersey law, there's the buildings and land law. Anytime this entity or any public entity is going to transfer public property to another party, they have to do it via ordinance if they're a municipality. So that's what the function of this ordinance is. At the special meeting which took place last Wednesday, this body collectively agreed to extend the redevelopment agreement until June 30th. The redeveloper states they are in a position to close on the property on or before June 20th, which means this body has to adopt an ordinance to allow that transaction to take place. Procedurally, that typically is done in conjunction with the redevelopment agreement, but from a review of the minutes from 2014, it appears that ordinance hasn't been adopted in the past. That's the reason this body has that ordinance before them this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Karen.
Just one quick point of clarification. I know Ms. Jones wants to say something.
And so does Lindsay.
The Blue Jay Hill Road, and I think some of the residents are confused with a property that we had purchased earlier on that was going to be dedicated for Timbuktu for the purposes of storing artifacts, archives, and records. Is that this property that we're now knocking down?
I don't have any long-term history of Timbuktu. I was told that it needs to be demolished by the Green Acres. It had fallen in disrepair. There was a fire there. So I don't believe it would be the place where the artifacts would be stored because it was uninhabitable.
When was this property purchased?
I can fill in it because I remember you guys as a committee did authorize the purchase of a property, I believe it was last year, is the one you're discussing. I think Blue Jay Hill predates all of our time.
114 Church Road, that
Right.
might be the property of which you're speaking.
I guess the question is, and the question I have is, why do we own this property?
So this property, as best I can remember from what was discussed earlier in the Timbuktu Advisory Committee and later on agreed to by this body, was it would be purchased. We knew that at some point that it may have to be raised for the reasons that our township administrator I've already spoken to, and it was to be used as an overflow or a parking area for when we have events down there. At present, parking is very limited, and we have to actually either work with the school or hire a bus service and actually ferry people back and forth. Generally, what serves as an overflow parking is Holly Hills Elementary School.
Now, Timbuktu is technically on Church Street, right? And I'm assuming Blue Jay crosses that at some section? I'm just looking at it, Google.
But Blue Jay would be the street, one street over.
Okay.
I don't remember that.
And just for point of clarification for the residents, why I'm inquiring is I personally have made it, or expressed my concern that we've been purchasing numerous properties along Timbuktu, and we still have not heard a plan of action for the development. What is the future? What's it looking like? And I won't beat a dead horse. I've already discussed the concerns. We shouldn't be, as some residents have expressed before, in the business of real estate and purchasing lands and properties without having an intended use for it. This was done already, so I just wanted to give everybody an explanation of my inquiry.
Okay. During my time later on, I'll give as best of an update that I can on Timbuktu and where we stand and what was some of the vision planning that went into purchasing some of that space. Who's next?
Ms. Jones.
Ms. Jones?
Hi.
Hello.
Denise Jones, 20 Mary Lane. I just had a question on ordinance 5/2017 on this here. Who takes care of that property during the interim? As I ride past that property now, the grass is up to about 15 feet, and it's looking.
Which one are you referring to?
Ordinance 5/2017, blocks 401. It's a house there. It's purchased for the redevelopment.
No, no one lives there. Oh, okay, I got you. This is for the Ingerman, site, and you're talking about the,
During the interim of whatever happens right now, who takes care of that property? Are we in charge of taking care of that
No.
property?
yeah,
We don't own
we,
the house.
we don't own the house.
You know, on the house?
We own the property that kind of goes around it. I'll look into that with our code official.
Okay. But, because I know there's neighbors next door that I talk to, and it's becoming a problem with, what do you want to call, rabbits and different wildlife and everything else, so. And if you ride past there, it's about 15 feet of grass. Thank you.
15?
Yeah, 15. I'm 6 feet, so.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Eustace.
Laura Eustace, 14 Canopy Drive. I'm just trying to clarify and figuring this out. So you're trying to say that the land was never transferred correctly? Is that what we're saying? This should have been done way before now.
Yeah, I don't.
Never transferred
Yeah.
correctly.
At all, or
It-
at all.
I believe, I'm sorry, the
I can
agreement
fill you
was,
in, yeah, I can fill you in. So it's not, the land hasn't been transferred to Ingerman yet. Per the redevelopment agreement, which is now extended to June 30th, the land has to be transferred to them on or before June 30th, and that's when their construction financing and their tax credit financing has to close by as well. In order for this body to transfer that property to them, this body has to first adopt an ordinance via first and second reading. So that's what the ordinance is for.
Okay, just I wanted to clarify that because I don't know about everybody else, but this was like missed. This should have been done way before now.
Yeah, Ms. Eustace, I don't know, and I would even be willing, and perhaps the solicitor could correct me, but the transfer was not supposed to happen until at some time that the deal was consummated or it would come to closing. Am I right?
The original redevelopment agreement called for a closing of December of 2016. It was then extended till the end of May of 17, and now it's extended till the end of June of 17.
So for argument's sake, originally, we would have done the transfer sometime back in December of 2016.
No, I disagree with that assessment, and I've chatted with the solicitor about that as well earlier today. When we adopt the redevelopment agreement lists or stipulates a list of conditions that the township must abide by the closing date, so that when they go to the closing table, it's like any of us who have purchased a home. We have conditions that the bank tells us, you need to meet these list of conditions. If you don't meet these list of conditions, you're going to put your mortgage in jeopardy. So the township entered into an agreement with the redeveloper and provided or received and agreed upon a certain set of agreements and conditions that we would meet. So one would naturally assume the minute you sign the dotted line, the township committee approves that redevelopment agreement, you're going to quickly get to work on meeting those conditions, because you know at any date you're going to have to go to the closing. That redevelopment agreement, what was the first date of the adoption of the redevelopment agreement? I know it's the year 2014.
2014, I don't remember what month at the time, but
It
2014.
may have been June 24th.
So the redevelopment agreement was first adopted in, let's say, June of the year 2014. We're just now meeting conditions of a contract and agreement that we signed on 2 years ago. All right, so that's a concern. And my concern in particular is that I think this important piece of information was very, very noteworthy and important for the conversation that we all had on this dais and the residents as well last week on Wednesday. The reason why we're making this land deal is because the township, in the fine print of the redevelopment agreement, states that West Hampton Township must pay 5% of the developer's costs. 5% of the developer's costs for the Ingerman development project comes out to a total of $720,000. We heard last week from the developer's attorney this isn't costing the township anything. It's nothing, right? And now tonight, after that vote went down, we're getting ready to gift the developer, a for-profit developer, a parcel of land that at minimum must be valued at $720,000 to meet the developer's redevelopment agreement and conditions that he has with his bank and state and county to secure financing. So that on top of the fact that we're going to be subsidizing the education of the children at the cost of $15 million if there's no special needs. So it's a little disconcerting that we're learning this, and that frankly, us as elected officials, we have no idea of what has been adopted and not. So to present that, no, we're on time, we could have done that, or we're just making it. The fact of the matter is all of us, all 5 of us on this committee, we did not know that the ordinance had not been adopted, and it should have been adopted prior to tonight.
And further, shouldn't we have known that before we voted last week?
As I stated, it should have been done the time after, or I spoke to the solicitor earlier this afternoon. He said normally it could have been done at the time that the redevelopment agreement was signed off on, so that ordinance could have been presented that same night. But any time, I'm okay with any time after the redevelopment agreement was signed and adopted. You now have a list of items you need to get to your mortgage before it closes. And now we're close to the closing table and we're just playing catch up. So the main emphasis here is that it's an important piece of information that should have been known before we all took the vote last week, in my humble opinion.
Gary?
Has that land been assessed?
Formally, no. I haven't seen an assessment.
If that land is not worth $720,000, where's the rest of the money coming from?
Township technically would be on the hook for it as per the redevelopment agreement. We must give 5%. And so the agreement, 5% of the
Who
total.
in God's name signed a contract with the assumption, clearly an assumption at this point, that this land was worth $720,000?
Yeah,
I mean, it's bad enough that we're giving away land, don't get me wrong. But the way I see it, we could be giving away land and money when this is all said and done. Who's doing the assessment on this? There has to have been an assessment on this property by now, no?
Deputy Mayor, where did you get your assessment number from?
I haven't seen. I'm getting my assessment number in the sense that the redevelopment agreement states that we need to at least secure 5% of the payment, and in lieu, maybe that's probably the secret word here, in lieu of the 5%, the developer is accepting the donation of this land.
In lieu of the 5%.
In lieu of the 5% requirement.
The land was donated to us by the Pavanian brothers, that we got it on January of, January of 2015. I think we signed the agreement December of 2014, and the land was donated to us. I got the letter.
Was it assessed at that time?
I don't believe it was assessed. We paid $10 for it from Pavanian.
Yes, but I mean, this is township land, right? Has an assessment attached to it?
I have not seen an assessment.
My assumption is that every piece of property in the town is assessed. Yes?
Yes.
Is it possible for us to find out what that number is?
I'm trying to find out right now.
Thank you. It's very concerning to everyone, obviously, that we've gone forward with such a horrible mess here. This is a terrible, terrible thing that's happened. The people who are responsible for this need to take responsibility. I'm calling for the resignation of the people who are responsible for this. For the people sitting up here right now, Sapinella's not here anymore. I think he should be sued. It's worth. And by the way, we're setting up a GoFundMe site for West Hampton, and we will look into class action suit against this for the township, for the people in this township. Whatever went on here, so good. You have a township solicitor who's in bed with a developer, clearly, not only in this town, but in other towns. pulling off deals like this. It's a ridiculous mess. So I'm here tonight to call for the resignation of those who voted for this. I want you gone. I don't want to wait till next week or tomorrow when I have to vote to get rid of you. You should be gone right now. You should be ashamed and you should resign. Show a little respect for yourself and step aside. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? The gentleman all the way in the back, and then I'll go back to you, Mr. Mombaro. Good evening.
Tom Dolan, not related to Mr. Dolan. My concern is with 16A. All right, so this was already a private-owned road by IKEA. Why are we getting involved in this? And why is the township getting involved in it? Who is moving into the building that Mr. Dolan is building?
Okay, so two questions. One is, why are we getting involved in it? We're getting involved in it simply because after it was determined that this warehouse would go in, that there were concerns of many of the residents who live in the Spring Meadows community. There was also concerns of traffic on the Springside Road. What could we do? What could possibly be done to mitigate some of that traffic? What could be done to mitigate the loss of quality of life for those residents in that area? And what could be done to possibly lessen some hazards that could be caused by extended truck traffic? So the idea was to use IKEA Road. Fundamentally, it would be nice just to use the road. However, since we don't own a road, IKEA has a right as a private entity to limit access to the road. As such, we find ourselves in a situation where it had to be a negotiation of how could the road would have to be dedicated to the township in order for it to become a public road, and that's where we find ourselves at. The entity moving into the warehouse is known as Camuto Group.
Okay, so have you approached them on what they thought they should do? They saw there was going to be a problem with this from the very beginning of the development. If IKEA is willing, if that's a private road like Mr. Rowan has, an inductor firm, I don't know why we're getting involved in it. Between these two people, if they know that, they should use that private road together, basically take care of that private road together. If IKEA would come to an agreement with that other company, we wouldn't be involved in anything. We wouldn't say no money, nothing would change. No one would put down any money. The private businessmen, they would get together and they would handle it. We would not be involved at all if they were concerned with our community. Another thing, this is the last thing, and then I'll put this step aside. There's all these rumors going around that a super Wawa is coming. And if that's coming, you've got to be kidding me. The traffic on that road, the accidents, and now you're putting a new development there on top of it, and the other new development, and then you're going to put a super Wawa there? There's no reason for a super Wawa there. And then some other kind of fast food restaurants coming in. So I'm hearing from everybody. I don't know if it's the truth or not. But if it is, I would like to know about it.
Yeah, there's been
Get worse.
There's been an application submitted by a developer that has intends to put in a super Wawa there, and it mentions a restaurant establishment. It doesn't name the type of establishment, but you're correct.
You know what that neighborhood's going to turn into?
I live in the district, so.
Right. So, I mean, if it's just truck drivers are going to be using that road, and we're not going to be using it, there's no reason why for the businesses that are there and the taxes they pay to us, that they could work something out in between those two, that they would be the only ones using that road. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dolan. Any other questions? Mr. Dolan?
Good evening, Mike Dolan.
Good evening.
I feel funny talking this way to talking to the microphone when I really want to talk to the residents because I want to explain what I know of this because I guess a lot of you, maybe a few of us were here 25 years ago, but not all of us were here 25 years ago.
Feel free to grab the mic, Mr. Dolan.
Thank you. When IKEA Drive was built, but I was here, I built IKEA Drive, and IKEA paid for it. There's a couple things that I think will really help you to understand, because I think people are getting concerned about this, but I really want you to understand the way the law works and the way all this happened. New Jersey state law not just suggests, but requires that every lot, every building sitting on a lot, be on a public road. Okay? It's a requirement. It's not an option. They have to be on a public road. So I suspect all of you, whatever home you live in, you probably live on a public road. I don't know if any of you don't, but you live on a public road. So you're not obligated to care for the road, take the liability or risk of somebody driving down the road recklessly, getting in an accident and then suing you, and neither should IKEA or other people. When that road was first built, all the plans, all the documents, the resolutions talked about that road to be dedicated. Upon completion, it would be dedicated. And for one reason after another, and a lot of turnover at the township, a lot of different people on township government, mayors came and left, year after year, it got pushed down the road. And it just wasn't being dedicated. Now, IKEA pays nearly $800,000 a year, I think, in real estate taxes, which obviously go to the town and the county and the school district to fund things around here. Other buildings that use that private road in the back of the business park, they pay another $800,000 to $900,000 of real estate taxes. And someone made a comment earlier that, well, if they give up those couple of acres out of their 63 acres, will they be able to have less taxes? No, because now they're finally on a public road, which is what gives value to their building. You can't sell a building that's not on a public road in New Jersey, not legally. Okay, so to the contrary, if IKEA or any of the other building owners on those private roads wanted to, they could go to tax court and try to get tremendous reductions in their real estate taxes that they do pay, because they don't have the benefit of what everyone else in New Jersey has, the right to be on a public road. It's the primary function of local government, is to provide police protection and to provide safe roads. So that's really the background of it. That it's not something unique or some advantage that IKEA is getting. Rather, IKEA and we have paid for the maintenance of that road for 25 years instead of just one. The 1 year it's supposed to take to get it dedicated, and it's finally coming around to be dedicated. And one of the reasons it's being dedicated is, again, to facilitate the business traffic, getting it out to the highway quicker without it being near homes. But, you know, it's the good and the bad. You take the good and the bad together. The good of having all that money come into the town to help fund schools and township functions and so on. And you have the bad. You have the fact that there are businesses that bring traffic. Okay, so I don't know if anybody has a question, but I really wanted to explain it.
Why can't that be considered a driveway? And then all driveways go down to the public road?
Because IKEA and the other buildings want to be on a public road. But they have to have frontage on a public road. It has to be a legal lot.
Not a driveway?
No, not a driveway that will eventually lead to a public road. It has to be on a public road.
So I'm sorry, you've been violating the law for 25 years? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
I'm sorry, I live right behind IKEA, and before they actually did some construction to that road, when those trucks used to come for the speed bumps on, it would literally shake my whole entire house. So when you're going to add more traffic, I'm concerned with that same type of traffic, and it's going to cause issues, you know, with shaking my home and so forth.
Right.
So before those speed bumps actually were put on that road, it would shake the whole entire home right to the back of Hillcrest Drive. We felt the vibration of the truck.
Right. Well, the traffic that we're talking about is, I don't think, near your home. I mean, we have a plan that we can show you, and we can show you where the commuter traffic will access IKEA Drive, but it's going to go out past Catholic Charities. If you know where Catholic Charities is, where IKEA Drive comes into Springside Road, that's where the traffic's being routed. It's not being routed backwards toward Woodland Road. It's being routed south toward Springside Road.
But my concern is, you're saying it's going to become a public road,
Right.
and we're going to have to, the township is going to have to maintain that road, and we're going to have to still maintain with updating speed bumps and so forth. You know, when those speed bumps get wear and tear and so forth, and wear and tear on the road, which is going to be done,
Right.
we're going to be responsible for that maintenance of the road.
Right.
And where's that money going to come from? The township is going to regular tax.
It comes from real estate taxes. Again, the buildings in that park in the last 20 to 25 years, many of those buildings are 20 to 25 years old. In aggregate, they paid millions of dollars to West Hampton for very little services, not even the right to be on a public road yet. Okay, they paid millions of dollars. And over the next several years, they'll pay millions more. But that's in part the role of zoning and why towns designate some areas to be commercial or industrial so they can bring in the money to fund services for the people that live here. But there's no trash removal in the business park. You get trash removal. There are very little services provided. It is a place where towns can gather money to take care of its residents. That's what these business parks do. And that's what this business park has always done. But this is just catching up on old business that this group of people up here, one of them were up here 25 years ago or even 5 or 6 years ago.
In that those people were taking care of that property for this many years, it could be under the government where you now have possession. Is that true?
I don't follow your point. I mean, IKEA has an attorney here. I'm sure he could answer some questions on that. But I think eminent domain is a function that towns or governments do. It's not a function that individuals or businesses do.
Well, yeah, except that there's an eminent domain law. And when you take care of a piece of land, it's even yours for a period of time. You play claim to it. Add possession. It's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
My understanding is that after 20 years, there has to be court proceedings transferring that property and completed before it can be committed. But that's what we understand. Okay, just thought.
Thank you.
Al, if you can you clarify just one point regarding private developments or private properties? I think we've all driven in developments or in private properties where there's multiple owners of private properties and there's one private road.
Sure.
The testimony we heard earlier stated that you can't have more than one different owner continuing to own a private road or access road for multiple owners. I just want to be clear on that because I think there are some examples.
Yeah, private roads are pretty common. They're not, it's not the ideal situation, and usually the way the zoning ordinance is set up is to avoid private roads. So there generally is a requirement that any lot created be on a public road, but it's pretty common to get a variance from that. So oftentimes you will see property that doesn't front on a private road, but instead it has a driveway, a private drive that leads back to it. I'm not sure what a requirement of this approval was. Oftentimes you'll see when a project is approved, it'll call for the road to be dedicated to the township. It sounds like this was done 20-some years ago, at least according to Mr. Dolan. So I don't know if that was a requirement of this specific project. But I think your question is, do we see situations where there's private roads like this? And yeah, I certainly do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sewell. Gary?
Sorry, when I spoke, I did try to cite the ordinance. I'm holding it. It's 23-14, regulations applicable to IKEA Drive. In the preamble of the ordinance, and this is added 11/14/1995. It says the provisions of Subtitle 1 and Title 39 shall be made applicable to the semi-public road known as IKEA Drive. So it's a semi-public road. Can you help us understand what that is?
Yeah, I'm not the engineer, but I'll speak to it. I think a portion of the road is private, and then towards the tail end, it opens up, kind of, is it past Demers Lane? Somebody who lives in the area, anybody who lives there? Where the latter section?
I think it stops at Summers Lane.
There's a portion of it, right, near Summers Lane that's public? I know it's a quasi, Mr. Dolan, you
The portion from Springside Road
mm-hmm.
to the base end of the tree.
Yep.
That first meeting was maybe 800,000 feet.
That's public, right?
That is public, that was accepted back in 1993.
Yep.
And the next portion was delayed a year until another building was torn at Kiyama, where it would be required to be a public road then. The idea being maybe for a year it could be a private road. But once multiple buildings try to come on that, it should be a public road. And that's the point where it just kept getting bumped down to sometimes public
So, Mr. Dolan, we're talking about the area, the area from Springside Road to where the turnabout would be, correct?
Yeah, T's.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have a map. You can feel free to talk to it if you want to. Forgot we had the engineer here.
Inside, this is the full site here, this will be public, the rest is all
Private. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry. Mr. Mumbar wanted to say something, and Ms. Pettis wants to say something.
Okay. Mr. Mumbai, I'll go. Ms. Pettis, and then go with you. Ms. Pettis?
Michelle Pastor for Yolo. When this ordinance was done, was there a recent traffic study pattern done with this new way out, Mr. Goldman, or this is just nothing current has done? No, okay. And also, I'd like to bring up about the 21 Blue Jay Road. This is part of the area from the Timbuktu Committee, which I am on. And this was to, in fact, help with the overflow of traffic, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor Daniels, am I correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. And we have meetings once a month, and currently that is on our agenda, which we have for discussion of what we are doing with the Timbuktu Committee. So at any time, Mr. Lopez, you're welcome to review our minutes or even attend the meeting. So that's all I have to say. You have any questions about Timbuktu Committee, feel free to ask me as well.
I appreciate that. The request is actually not one of what you guys are doing or what are you deciding. We have all access to all that data and all the information. We've seen the works. I think Timbuktu Committee hosts 1 or 2 events per year in addition to the Timbuktu global study that was done in Rutgers University this year. The concern is that we want to see is a plan of action. I've been making this request for over 6 months at least, as far as what are we going to do with all the land. The township has purchased almost all of Church Road, and now we've gone into Blue Jay Road. The idea, and I understand the vision, what the Timbuktu Committee's vision is for this land. What I'm looking for is what's the plan of action to make that vision become a reality. And I think a lot of residents as well would like to see that. I've offered to host a special meeting just dedicated to that, and seeing a plan. I think it would be best for the committee to see the plan first, and make it ours, right, and approve it as the township's official plan, and then present it to the township. But I haven't gotten any response to my request.
What did you respond to? Did you respond to the chairman, Mr. Weston? Because I've been at 2 meetings, and this is the first I've heard from you about that in regards to that.
Yep.
And that has not come up on any of our agendas.
The former liaison, by the persons of Carolyn Chang, is aware of this request. The current liaison in the persons of Mayor Daniels is aware of this request. And the residents that have been here and have frequented the township committee meetings know that this has been an outstanding request, and I publicly from this dais have made this request.
Okay, well, Carolyn Chang has resigned as of our last meeting. We just got a letter from her.
Okay.
So I will look into that.
Thank you.
And I'll get back and answer with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When we actually get to that resolution, I'll speak to it then. I believe we have Mr. Mumbai.
I apologize, I didn't realize that 16B was added to the agenda from yesterday. But last week, there was a lot of national teeth regarding this development and the extension that the committee is going to give the developer or not give the developer regarding, what was it, sewage plant, whatever it was?
Yep.
Okay. And now we find ourselves where they don't even own the land. And the lawyer for the developer kept using the analogy, we're on the goal line and we need to push it in. Well, you know, I'm throwing a challenge flag because you never had possession of the ball. You know, you never had the ball. You're not, you know, so what are we punching in over the goal line? Excuse me. So I wonder, you know, what do they know about this? You know, I mean, Mr. Ingerman, I mean, everybody's, you know, looking at you folks as far as responsibility. But if I'm Mr. Ingerman, if I'm hearing about this first reading, I'm looking at my people. And I'm saying, what the hell were you doing? I paid all this money for everything we've done up to this point, and I don't even own the land. So I kind of know where you guys come from with the direction you look at, because it was brought up last week, litigation, all this other thing. But I'll just say to you, as you go into this reading, and I don't know if this is just a matter of, you know, we're going to read it, we're going to prove it, whatever, but, you know, if your concern is litigation, I would turn it back to Mr. Ingerman. You need to look at your people. They didn't serve you well. It's not just our responsibility. You took actions without even owning the land. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Morel. Was there anyone else?
I can't find anything. Nope. I cannot find one thing on the assessment on Block 401, Lot 2-01 or 8.
When we actually get into the motion, I want to give some clarity. This is public comment, speaking time. This is not.
No, everybody else has spoken, Andre. I'm saying I cannot find anything on the assessed value of that land.
I'm not in disagreement with you. What I'm simply saying is I would give clarity to what you just said when we actually get into the motion.
Okay.
This is just public speaking time.
Oh, is answering him.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Makes it even more interesting, obviously. As for Blue Jay Way and the rest of what's going on over Timbuktu, I was the president of the West Hampton Historic Society. Worked with Gil here and Janet and some other folks. You're the ones that put the stone there to the dedication for that property. It's my understanding that this committee does not speak to the Historic Society in West Hampton about that. Is this true?
That this committee or the Timbuktu committee?
Timbuktu committee.
I would have no knowledge of that. I'm open to speak to anyone.
Well, I'm just interested in why, in God's name, the West Hampton Historic Society has not been involved in a project they started.
I really couldn't answer that question. I know that we make public our meetings when the Timbuktu Advisory Committee meets. The last meeting I was not at, I actually came, opened up the building, helped set up, and then I had to leave. But
well, I just want to make perfectly clear that I'm all for whatever happens there.
Okay.
But for gosh sakes, you have a historic society in Rancoats Village and for West Hampton that this is what they do. This is what we've done. We were the ones that started that project. We were the ones that recognized it. We're the ones that dedicated it. For those that don't remember.
What I would add to that, Mr. Jock, is that simply as long as I've been sitting here, every chance I've gotten, I have acknowledged all of the contributors to the Timbuktu.
Appreciate it.
Going all the way back when it was considered just a piece of dirt and we shouldn't even enjoin and spending $25,000 to begin the excavation of the site. On numerous occasions, I have cited your body, the Historical Society. I've cited people like Ms. Curran. I've cited people like the Scouts. I've cited people like the American Legion who have played an integral part, because there was a time when Timbuktu wasn't, if you will, wasn't on the front burner of anybody's agenda, except for a few people.
West
that
Hampton
went down.
Historic Society.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, it was.
And
people
they
that
should
went
be
down.
involved now, and it's a very, very important, don't get me wrong, it's a very, very important historic site, very important. And I look forward to, along with Mr. Lopez, to hear the plans for that project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Ms. Berkeley?
Regarding the land transfer, from other meetings, I was under the understanding that this is not something really that you can decide to do or not to do, that you've already been committed to do that,
That's correct.
and that the land, even though we own it, we don't own really the value because the agreement was Mr. Harvey, I can't pronounce his name. What? Yeah, gave us the land only so that we could transfer it to Mr. Ingerman.
That's
So it's
correct.
not like he gave us the land and now we can sell it.
Well, wait, let's correct that record real quick. I've seen no contract between the Township of West Hampton and Hovnanian developers on what we have to do with the land. All I've seen is a deed that this land is now property of West Hampton Township. Now, what appears is that there was some agreements and negotiations done by the previous committee, former Mayor Carolyn Chang, the mayor was here at the time, and Committeewoman Talisa would be the only senior elected officials on this dais right now that should have the details of all this on what was discussed and what was negotiated. But as far as I'm concerned, I've seen zero contract mandating that West Hampton Township has to give this land to anybody. The only thing that I see that tells us we must give this land is a redevelopment agreement signed between the Township of West Hampton and Ingerman, the developer. But I've seen zero communication between Hovnanian and West Hampton Township.
So even though, we signed the contract basically, which means we cannot back out now?
We signed a contract with Ingerman that says we can't back out in giving them this land for free.
That was my question.
Okay.
I guess for the people that were here a while ago, was that your understanding that that was the purpose of the transfer?
Absolutely, and you're absolutely correct. And to clear up any misnomers, West Hampton Township never owned a piece of property at all, and that was not by way of a piece of property that West Hampton Township would have owned, would have been our 5% contribution. When we actually get into the resolution or the ordinance, I will explain it a little bit more.
We own it now, though, right?
Pardon me?
We own the property right now, correct?
Only for the purposes of pass-through.
Okay.
Only from a legal perspective. So, and if you remember last week, that was a question that I asked, that if in fact we said no and we forced a breach to a company that has arguably said that they plan on consummating this deal within 20 days, for argument's sake, if we denoted that they were in fact in breach, what would happen to the property? Would it be a receivership, or would it go back into the coffers of West Hampton Township, for instance? In some way, if that were singularly the case, but then I would think, just sitting here without absent counsel, then that might be a good thing for West Hampton Township. But that was not the case. It was contingent upon all of these things being executed, and I would simply say that that 5% was contingent upon the county funding that we received, the state funding and the state funding that we received, and I believe some home grant money that was also put in there.
I asked the question because I got the opinion that some of the residents thought that if the land was worth a lot more, we should sell the land and then pay the 5%, and we would come out ahead. And that's why I asked the question, if we are committed or not already, or we're not committed, that thought that some of the residents had could be followed through.
Our hands are tied.
Thank you.
Ms. Eustace and then Ms. Curran.
Eustace, 14 Canopy Drive. I guess it's a two-part question. Did we ever get this in writing from Hovnanian that gave it to us? And part two is, why did they give it to us?
Okay. As to the first question, I'm sure, I'm reasonably sure that we executed something, because you have to. There had to be something transfer entitled to West Hampton Township as an entity and using it as a pass-through. And what was your second question? Why did they do it?
Can't say the word. Why did Hovnanian give it to us?
Best that I can remember, going all the way back, part of this was also tied to the Woodmont development. Now, it gets somewhat sketchy because at one time I thought that we had to execute on the Ingerman development, because if we didn't, it was tied legally to the Woodmont development. We would later on find out that that was not the case, that in fact both of them stood on their own merits. However, I do remember at some time early on There was an exchange of land, and it involved Woodmont, it involved Peter Hovnanian, and the property that was owned over there by where the Woodmont development would go. So it became somewhat complicated, but it was a condition of, I believe, our 5%, and the land that was deeded to us had everything to do with the way the financing was structured.
And if I can, Ms. Eustace, just reading between the lines on what I've heard from my colleagues, what I've heard from former Mayor Carolyn Chang, this is my understanding of what happened. Now, mind you, there's no documents, there's no emails, there's no contracts, there's nothing. All I have is the testimonials of what has happened and what has gone on. But I also have a good sense of the law and what's required of developers. Woodmont Development Group, or Woodmont, announces they're going to build, what was the exact number of apartments, 456 or something around there? 456 luxury apartments, right? So for 456 luxury apartments, the state of New Jersey states that a certain percentage must be earmarked, must be dedicated for affordable housing, for low and moderate income. And what I'm seeing, all right, and what I'm sensing happened is that, and I'm getting confirmation of this theory, if you will, by way of the amount of affordable low-income houses Woodmont committed to in their redevelopment agreement. Woodmont originally had approved or stated they would build, I believe the number was, and don't quote me on this, you can just check the minutes on the Land Development Board for the adoption of the redevelopment agreement for Woodmont, roughly 14 apartments, low income. Now, one comes to do the math, 450-something units of affordable housing, you're only going to build 14. You know, one would have believed that this governing body would have said, no, Mr. Developer, you need to build more affordable housing in that luxury housing development. What I believe is what has happened and what we've seen over the past couple of years is that the developers negotiated their own terms. They stated that they weren't going to build the maximum amount of affordable housing that they should have built in this Woodmont development. They came up with this exchange where in township minutes, and I published some of this on Facebook, and you all can check out the minutes, the projects were unofficially tied. There's no legally binding contracts, no memorandums of agreement, no memorandums of understanding between the township and both of these developers, that Woodmont would shift its burden of affordable housing creation onto Ingerman and would claim as their own the 100% low and moderate income credits that the township is receiving under the Wood Lane Road development as their own. And the only justification for them doing this is that they got the property owner of the land that they were going to build their 456 luxury apartments, Hovnanian, the same owner, to gift X amount of acres to the township. The township would then own this, and that would be, if you will, the unofficial quid pro quo between the township, the developer. They scratch the back this way. But there's the common denominator here is that you have developers skirting their requirements and their obligations to this community and to those that are in need of help, low income and moderate families, to not fulfill their statutory requirement of building low-income houses. And unfortunately, this committee, previous administration, some who are still on, thought, you know, it's a wash. At least we'll get 100% low-income now, all on Wood Lane Road. And my only beef with that, my only problem with that is that District 1, Spring Meadows, Rolling Hills, Amara Lane, we're taking on the whole township's burden of affordable housing in our district. And I believe that that burden should be shared township-wide. Not only that, when we have an opportunity of 456 luxury apartment units, I believe families that are low income also deserve the same quality and the same access to these luxury units and complex and development than anyone else. So why did this governing body tell this developer, don't bring the low income to this luxury development, we'll take them over to District 1. You know, that's the problem.
Yes,
That's not true.
one more quick thing. Do we have any of these low income in Irick Woods, Irick Lakes? We have them in Deerwood? No, I don't think so.
Right.
That's not good.
Yeah, if I
What
could,
Mr. Lopez failed to mention is that Woodmont might not, they're in trouble. They no longer own the bank now, that property, and they're negotiating with Woodmont and other people. So he just omitted a few facts that we originally planned to do is not going to happen. So we are going to have to switch to some kind of a plan B. So right now, Woodmont is negotiating with TD Bank for the property. So, and then also, it wasn't 14
here we
affordable
go.
homes. It was actually 27. And we actually sat together. This particular committee sat together, and we even looked at Woodmont's plans, and we decided we wanted to have them mixed in the development and not all grouped together.
The final, the final number came out to somewhere near 27, and I cautioned everybody that the 14 number, you should go back to the minutes. The fact of the matter is, you had 456 luxury units being built in Woodmont, and that developer was given a pass on building the amount of affordable housing units that he needed to build. And the tie-in, I'm not omitting anything. If you would recall, the announcement to the residents about the Woodmont development being on shaky grounds due to the foreclosure of Hovnanian's land was announced by me about 2 meetings ago. So check the Township Committee meeting minutes. I don't omit any facts. If anything, I've been accused as of late of revealing too many facts to residents and in the township. And if you just entertain me just one more moment, I would read for you the minutes of where the both projects were tied. And this was, again, by the legal counsel representing the township, which is the solicitor.
Well, I only did it, Mr. Lopez, in case somebody didn't read the meetings from 2 meetings ago. So now they know that Woodmont is having problems and...
No, but you had suggested that I had almost inappropriately or incorrectly...
Well, you didn't bring it up again today for those people that weren't here 2 meetings ago.
Let's...
A few people here.
We'll just quickly go, ladies and gentlemen, we'll quickly go to the words of Mr. George Sapernaro. And the source of this, of what I'm reading, is the West Hampton Township Committee meeting minutes. The date of this meeting minutes is September 8, 2015. Present in this meeting were Committeeman Daniels, present. Committeeman Mayberry, present. Committeewoman Talisa, present. Committeeman Thorpe, absent. Mayor Chang, present. And the minutes read, George Sapernaro wanted to address several more questions first. The property isn't yet owned by Woodmont. They are under contract to purchase it. He spoke about the other complex on Wood Lane Road, which is the Ingerman, where the affordable housing will then be built. Each unit will cost about $90,000 to construct, and he knows the taxpayers don't want to bear this. Woodmont will build 28 units in the luxury project, and the balance they'll build on Wood Lane Road, which is 72 units, for a total of 100 units. How are we giving a developer credit for 100 units when these projects have nothing to do with the other?
Right.
And this is on the township's meeting minutes. I do not omit. I do not exaggerate. Almost like the Bible. I don't add a period or a dot or a line in the beginning of the scriptures or in the end of the scriptures. You know, facts are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. We may not like them. We may not want them, but they continue to be the facts.
Any other public comment? Ms. Curran? Then Juanita.
Just 2 quick ones. To answer one of your questions about Timbuktu and not knowing, you know, what is taking place, and with Mr. Jenks, and a resident came to the Historical Society asking us what can we do to make the Civil War Cemetery noted. And it was done, and we have a lot of notes and a lot of, we don't have them. There is a person that does have them, to do what we did to honor the Civil War soldiers that are buried there. Timbuktu is very dear to me because I grew up and I was able to walk down Rancocas Road, and you could look down Church Street and you could see all the people that lived there. And I happen to know a lot of the people, so I know a lot of the history because of the people. We had a clerk that worked here for many years who kept many scrapbooks of everything that happened in this township, and they're not here. Where are they? But I just wanted to let you know that we did Timbuktu. Timbuktu Civil War Cemetery is taken care of every year with the help of, I call, where'd Maria go? I call it to tell her what we're doing, when we're going to do it. But it means a lot to me. But a resident from Timbuktu wanted us to look into letting people know that the Civil War Cemetery is there. We know the history of every soldier that is buried there, and it's awesome history to know. And I know what I know because I knew a lot of the residents there. And when we come to warehouses, Mike, Mr. Dolan, I remember when Mr. Dolan, Mike came to West Hampton and his plans. It was not his fault that we no longer have farming because the farmers gave up. I mean, they couldn't afford to keep the farm land. So we now have industrial parks. So we're getting ratables, and our new warehouse brings us ratables, okay? So every time we get a ratable, I know we're supposed to get ahead, right? But it seems sometimes we fall behind. It's not just Mr. Dolan's fault about the traffic problem we're having. It's also the county. These roads were not built for tractor and trailers. I got called down on that one night when I said that. That is their job. That's how we get our food. That's how we get our produce, whatever. But, yes, we have a lot of warehouses. Most of the warehouses, like, you don't see them anymore. But what we have now on Springside Road, it is an eyesore, but you did do a beautiful job, and I thank you for at least trying to help the residents that live along there. So again, I think it's just so many things of history that everyone that is elected to this township should know some of the history. And there will be something done, I hope eventually, with Timbuktu, but I don't know what it's going to be. I only know that we honored the Civil War Cemetery, the soldiers. Thank you.
Ms. Curran, just want you to know that we filed an application about 2 years ago to the New Jersey Department of, what I believe, the Historic Trust Register. And I understand that there are some complications. From what I understand, some work that needed to be done by a doctor was in fact completed. And right now, it's just a matter of, I believe, someone at the State Department of New Jersey to review the application and see if it's ready for prime time. I can tell you that that department meets at least 4 times a year, and generally speaking, they only hear 3 cases. We do not have a date. If we are in fact, Timbuktu is denoted as a historical landmark by way of the state of New Jersey, that application is naturally and automatically, from what I understand, forwarded to the national level. So that's where that's at right now.
Juanita.
Yeah, it is.
Let's get on. Juanita.
Who's next?
Juanita.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Juanita Smith, 44 Fieldcrest. I live in Spring Meadows. I'm at a loss without visuals, some kind of map or something showing me the plans for the exit at IKEA Road. I believe it exits right onto Springside. Not right here, but I'm saying I think everyone is at a loss to some extent without more visuals at these meetings. It's my belief that IKEA Road, the IKEA Road discussion covers just a portion of IKEA Road as a whole. Or does IKEA Road go up to Field Crest? The lady asked the question, is that still IKEA Road that runs behind Field Crest all the way out to the tire factory? No, that's what I thought. It's a different road. Stems, right. Okay, that's a different road. So that clarifies that. Secondly, as far as the exit from, what is it, Westwind? Not Westwind, excuse me, Meadowbrook, on to Springside, visually making that left and getting on that road is very difficult. And my understanding is that the trucking traffic that comes in that will be using IKEA Road will be using it as an exit only. They'll be coming in northbound and be used, this is what I've been told along the way, as an exit only, generally, to get out. My concern, however, is there a plan in the future, and is it a goal to get a light where they're exiting onto Springside Road? I personally lost an acquaintance of years in an accident already during the construction, and I'd hate to hear that that happens to others that live in Spring Meadows or anywhere. But definitely friends and neighbors that lose their lives because of accidents with these trucks or with the traffic. I have it, thank you. So the question would be, once again, planning. Is there a plan to put a light in wherever these trucks are going to be making that left or making the turns onto Springside down the road because of the fume and the obstruction? I would say this, because of the curving near that huge warehouse and the relationship of Spring Meadows, the view is somewhat obstructive, and to me, it's worse if trucks are going to be making that left going to Springside. So I do prefer it that way. I'm not crazy about having the warehouse to begin with, but it's there and we have to live with it. So those are my questions. Will there be a plan to try to get a best attempt to get a light wherever the traffic's going to move back onto Springside coming in? And the bottom line concern of this lady is that that's centers, not IKEA. And one of the concerns that was not spoken to was but it's come up, it's been touched upon. There are two companies operating in those warehouses at a minimum. There are a number of companies, but two major players. IKEA, my understanding, is one, but Dolan is also one. Is that correct?
As far as the second occupant
The major players.
of the major warehouse that you're seeing now?
The warehouse complex.
So the warehouse complex is owned by Dolan Industries. It's going to be leased by the Commuter Group.
Okay, but the IKEA portion, don't they own their portion?
IKEA owns IKEA Drive, and there's a portion probably of some frontage that belongs to the Dolan, but the attorney's here. He's probably well.
I think these things need to be presented.
Thank you, Ms. Juanita.
IKEA owns from Stemmers Lane around the IKEA property, heading on the north end of the IKEA property, heading westerly, and then curving in a southerly direction, and all the way down to the cul-de-sac of IKEA Drive. And from that portion out to Springside, I believe that is a public road. That's what IKEA means. And for what it's worth, IKEA agrees that a light would be a nice idea out on Springside.
Thank you.
I would add, Ms. Juanita, as far as the light goes, that with Springside Road being a county road, that is something that we had requested a long time ago. We actually had one of the freeholders who's responsible for, if you will, roads and other areas like that. Katie Gibbs, what is the vice director?
She's the, vice chair.
Vice chair of the freeholder board actually come out, and it was some discussion we were told, and now this could have changed, that the road, the frequency of that road did not denote that a traffic light was running at this time. However, at such time that the warehouse went in, they would in fact be willing to come out and do an assessment. So it's not that we have not thought about it, considered it. Our engineer, Gene Blair, had actually reached out to enjoin that conversation.
Okay.
Will the traffic indeed be coming in through the grass on Springside and exiting through IKEA Drive on back onto Springside?
The intended goal, if I can, through the mayor. Sure. The intended goal is the trucks would come in off of the Rancocas Road into Springside Road, go into the Kamuta development. They would exit through the back onto IKEA Drive. That is the developer's goal, and that is in great part the township's goal to avoid any tragic losses like the one you experienced and we all experienced during the construction. The concern we have, or the differing opinions, is the paying and what's involved financially.
Then the problem that she brought up is real. Because then they're driving through to come up on Stenners and through. So she's correct.
Look,
the traffic will be compounded. And the impact on Fieldcrest, also will be worse.
She's correct about, I can't speak for what she's feeling, but the traffic will be coming close to where she's at, yeah.
I'm assuming they will be taking Stenners, correct? No, which road would they be taking? No, this gentleman is answering.
Well, what I was saying, the trucks will pull in off of Springside at this particular building, and then work their way around to the back of the building, and they exit the back east side of the building. So as you go to Keenan, they got to go to Springside. We'll never go on to Stanners.
Well, I'm hearing Deputy Mayor Lopez say, enter from Rancocas.
No, so you're on Rancocas Road, right? Trucks coming on and off from the 295. They get on Rancocas Road, they can make a right onto Springside, and then from Springside they're entering the warehouse, they're exiting the warehouse, making a right on IKEA Drive back onto 295.
I'm confused once again. We're laying with Springside.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean with Rancocas.
Yep, so that's it. So what Mr. Dolan is saying is that they would be going away from your home instead of towards it. They're not expecting anybody to make a left. They're making a right.
Thank you.
The issues have already increased over the years. When I first moved here,
I think with the construction going on today, we were feeling vibrations when they were driving, and there's a big wall, so those walls when you drive. We're going to
Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Close the public comment. Thank you all. Moving right along. There are no continued agenda items. Old business, there is none. New business, there is none. Moving right along to resolutions. Resolution 8417, payment of vouchers. This resolution approves the payment of bills through 6/2/2017. What say you?
Motion.
second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Lopez?
Yes.
Smith Hartman?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Wisniewski?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes. Resolution 8517, refund taxes, Block 905, Lot 1. This resolution refunds taxes in the amount of $12,368.93 for Cracker Barrel Old Country Store for an overpayment due to the state tax appeal settlement.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just have a question. Maria, what year was it? The settlement, or what year the tax appeal?
They overpaid the second quarter.
2016.
2016? Yes, that was second quarter of
2016, I would think.
I would say 2016.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Lopez?
Yes.
Smith Hartman?
Yes.
Talisa?
Yes.
Wisniewski?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes. Resolution 8617, Chapter 159, Clean Communities Grant. This resolution permits the insertion of a special item of revenue into the local budget in the amount of $17,975.85.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion. A discussion? Roll call.
Lopez?
Yes.
Smith Hartman?
Yes.
Talisa?
Yes.
Wisniewski?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes. Thank you. Resolution 8717, Chapter 159, Bulletproof Vest Grant. This resolution permits the insertion of a special item of revenue into the local budget in the amount of $578.80.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Lopez?
Yes.
Smith Hartman?
Yes.
Talisa?
Yes.
Wisniewski?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes. Move right along. Resolution 8817, resolution in support of the FOP Awareness Initiative. This resolution is in support of the Fibrodysplasia Ossificans Progressiva Awareness Initiative, a rare genetic order.
Motion.
Second.
What say you? Well, I'm sorry. Chief, or anyone from the FOP like to speak to that or give us any additional
No,
information?
it's not a police matter.
No?
FOP means.
It's, if I may, I
Sure,
received an
please.
email from a gentleman who was approaching all the municipalities. Primarily now he's working on all the ones in Burlington County, and he's gotten them all to pass a resolution in honor of the awareness of this rare genetic disorder. I think there's only 7 in the state of New Jersey that have it, but he asked if we might consider the resolution and pass it. And I said, certainly.
Thank you for that clarification. It jogged my memory. Thank you. And Chief, my apologies.
I think we always see that letter, doesn't it?
Any additional comment? Laughter's good for the soul. Lord, self-effacing humor is good.
Well, we've all received that letter, so.
Any additional comment? Roll call.
Lopez?
Yes.
Smith Hartman?
Yes.
Talisa?
Yes.
Wisniewski?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes. Thank you. Resolution 8917, authorized execution of deed, Block 604, Lot 3. This resolution authorizes the execution of the deed, which will apply Green Acres restrictions to the property known as 21 Blue Jay Hill Road, owned by West Hampton Township.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a clarification. Whenever we dedicate anything with green acres or open space, is there a process to undo that in the future? Should the township have another desire for the property?
I can take it. There is. It's extremely arduous, though. So once you apply green acres restrictions on the property, the only way to remove them is to essentially trade for additional property. So green acres may remove restrictions if you give them additional property that you will restrict, although it's usually done at a ratio somewhere of between 4-to-1 or 10-to-1. So in other words, if you have 2 acres of property that are restricted, if Green Acres considers it a 4-to-1, you'd have to give them 8 acres back in return to remove that restriction. Sometimes it's even higher, too, depending on how Green Acres classifies it.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Also, I would like to add to this. We purchased this property initially, and Ms. Pettis had brought it to our attention, and I would just elaborate that Timbuktu is tight down there. One of the things, it was twofold. One would be additional parking for down there, and the twofold purpose would simply be to preserve the area and leave it unsettled as much as it could be. I cannot think of the name of the gentleman who owns Mr. Kent Pipes. I can't think of his organization. He would actually purchase Salt and Light. Thank you. Or purchase a piece of the property that the township later on would purchase, I believe, at the price of some $30,000. The spirit and the intent was to keep Timbuktu as pristine and as unencumbered from some future development, or, for instance, there was someone talking about possibly putting up a small apartment complex back there with some 8 or 12 units or something like that. The Township Committee, when we heard that in concert with the Timbuktu Committee, felt as though that the area should be left unsettled and open as much as possible. I can tell you by way of some future vision, there's a house down there that actually, the house is in disrepair, but it's a garage area that would serve quite ably as a museum and possibly to display some artifacts that have been uncovered by way of excavation down there. One of the things that we had also discussed is, like other museum areas, to have some stanchions or stand-alone displays down there that you could use QR coding and perhaps smartphone devices that would describe life as Timbuktu would have been back in the 1820, 1826 time period. Obviously, the committee's vision is far greater than any economic resources that we would have by way of the township funds or funds that have been raised on its own steam and energy. I can tell you that the committee did raise some funds and were able to receive some donations vis-a-vis Sam's Club donations to purchase a historical sign or a sign that would ably identify the Timbuktu area down there. So conversations continue. Obviously, some of the conversations have to be from the perspective of, we have these great ideas, but how do we fund the great ideas to continue to preserve Timbuktu as it should be? So that's all I have on that. I will now, if there's no further discussion, roll call.
Lopez?
Yes.
Smith Hartman?
Yes.
Talisa? Yes. Wisniewski?
Yes.
Daniels?
Yes, thank you. Moving along to ordinances, ordinance 4-2017. This is an ordinance authorizing acceptance of IKEA Drive. This is a first reading. This ordinance authorizes the township to accept IKEA Drive. What say you?
If I can add, Mr. Mayor, one of the things you guys will need to discuss too, it's something that may typically be discussed in a workshop, but you can discuss it here as well, is what work is going to be required to the road before you accept dedication if you do so. We do have a report from our engineer outlining the scope of work that would be required. I think there's an alternate proposal from Mr. Dolan as well, so that's something you would want to take into account before you take any action.
I'd like to see the proposal in writing before I decide to, one way or another. Do we have it in writing, the proposal?
Mr. Dolan did provide a proposal or a counter-proposal in writing, and the township engineer has provided an original recommendation, and I believe from my conversations, and we have a representative of the engineering firm, they're standing by their recommendations.
Right now, yes, we're standing by our recommendations. We have not seen any, at least I have not seen any proposal from Mr. Dolan as far as what he proposes, but we are standing by our recommendations.
So potentially this motion is not right.
No.
Can I join?
I'd like to table
Take
it.
a motion in favor.
Motion to table.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Just for the edification of the residents that are probably asking what are they saying or what's going on, we're talking about the proper maintenance. As some of the residents had mentioned earlier, if we dedicate this road, the township has to absorb both costs of maintenance, upkeeping of both the roads and also what's under the roads. The township engineer has made a recommendation that before the township adopts or dedicates these roads, the township should get it in the most pristine or best condition, or new condition, frankly, before dedicating these roads. The roads have been estimated by the engineer to cost $254,000 or roughly around there for a certain type of mill and repave, and for a more aggressive mill and repave, it's roughly $297,000, something around there to mill and repave. Mr. Dolan has made an offer to the township committee to mill and repave from the point of use where they intend to heavily traffic the warehouse. And I think the committee still would like to discuss that more and negotiate a little bit more on that process. So there's a recommendation to table. So I just wanted to explain it to you.
And ultimately, whatever you guys decide as a committee, if you do want to accept the dedication, ultimately, whatever level of milling you accept, we would want to build into the ordinance as well. So that's
Correct.
something we'll need from you guys, whether you discuss it tonight or in the future. I mean, you can discuss it tonight too, if that's what fits you.
No.
I made
have nothing to say to you.
seconded, so.
The only thing I want to say is that I've made it clear to Mr. Dolan, to my colleagues on the committee, that should we dedicate the whole entire road, that the township should receive it in brand-new condition. We want to secure the maximum amount of years of the road. Currently, we have an engineer's report that says that the roads are good for about 3 to 5 years, or roughly portions of the roads thereof. I know there's a difference in opinions, but I'm going to go by what the township engineer is warning us and telling us that it's got about 3 to 5 years of life. A road for industrial use, I've been educated by the engineer, should be 15 years. So before we dedicate the road, it's my recommendation to this governing body that we get a road that's good for 15 years before we dedicate it. So that's where I'm at on that. I'm open to negotiating and working with. I thank the representative, I'm sorry I don't have your name, from IKEA. Mr. Schuritz, please pass that on to IKEA, that we really thank them for having you represent them tonight here at this township meeting. I just say it's unfortunate that we haven't had this communication. I know you've communicated with Mr. Dolan back and forth, and you guys have had quite a few conversations. I think it would be really beneficial to have the township, yourself, and Mr. Dolan powwow and work this out.
Any further discussion? Roll call to table.
Lopez.
Yes.
Smith Hartman.
Yes, but should we have a workshop with the residents?
We can.
That's up to you guys.
I don't know if you want to negotiate separately.
We
Trying to
can.
move this along for quite a
We can negotiate. I think tonight we heard all the concerns from residents, and they've made themselves abundantly clear. I would recommend, and I accept your request for a workshop. We can negotiate, come up with something, and then maybe have a workshop with residents and let them know what we've come up with and hear feedback from the residents.
I think that's important.
I just don't quite understand the timing that you guys can.
Well, where's the time crunch? Do we have a time?
Excuse me?
Do we have a time limit on this, Maria?
It's been going on for a while. I don't know when Camuto is planning to, that they're starting to move. I don't know what exactly Camuto's timing is,
Maybe we could find that out. How's that?
but I believe they're going to start moving things this month.
Look,
Operations are gonna-
just for the sake, and you residents are here tonight, you know, she's requesting more engagement from you guys when we come up with an idea before we vote for it. I think the same way we did that emergency meeting for that Ingerman Development Project, if we need to do one to get you guys up to date, I'm all about doing that if that's what you guys want. So I'll avail myself to give you guys say and response of what we've come up with if the majority in the
Well, if
committee.
the residents have to ultimately maintain the roads,
Yeah.
I think we need... Renita, what were you saying? So do the residents want that? Yes, okay. So we'll figure it out. The timetable, we'll find out the timetable and get back to y'all, right?
Yep.
Can we have that published on our website?
Yeah.
If it's a workshop, yeah, if it's a public meeting, yes.
Okay. And it has to happen quickly, I understand.
We'll find out from Dolan, I guess.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you,
Any further
Renita.
comment?
I think we were in the middle of a vote.
Yeah, 2 years.
Continue roll call, please.
I'll finish the roll call. We're tabling, that's right.
Talisa.
We're to table.
Yes.
Table.
Yes.
Wisniewski.
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes. Moving right along, ordinance. Five 2017, ordinance authorizes the sale of block 401, lots 2-01 and 8. This is a first reading. This ordinance authorizes the sale of property owned by the Township of West Hampton to LIHTC, semicolon LLC, subject to the terms of the redevelopment agreement between the parties. What say you?
Yes. Motion.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Before we go, a few things that I'd like to point out pursuant to the redevelopment agreement. In the preamble, for instance, whereas Township designated Block 401, lots 2 and 8, fronting on Wood Lane Road collectively, the property is more precisely set forth on Exhibit B here, attached here too. Whereas the owner of the property intends to donate the property to the Township for redevelopment in accordance with the redevelopment plan, the donation. And whereas the Township desires to transfer the property via a bargain and sale deed with covenant against grantor's acts to redeveloper for the redevelopment of the property. I move on to whereas the Township intends to transfer the property to the redeveloper for no consideration because the Township intends for the transfer of the property to constitute a contribution from a local source, which was a part of this whole financing deal. The way it's been explained to me, that with the complicated funding structure, there had to be a component contribution from local entity, and there had to be a contribution from the county as well. Local contribution for the purposes of qualifying for the local support points under the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency Qualified Allocation Plan, which will maximize the likelihood of the project receiving an award of tax credits, whereas the redeveloper intends to accept the property from the Township for the redevelopment with affordable housing units utilizing the tax credits. Conveyance of property final agreement. Conveyance. Subject to the redeveloper meeting its obligations as described in this agreement, the Township, as a participating jurisdiction, agrees to convey the property to the redeveloper at no cost. The parties agree that in addition to the property from the Township, redeveloper may receive a funding commitment from Burlington County through its home program. The Township has agreed to make such contribution in order to qualify for local support points under the New Jersey NJHMFA's Qualified Allocation Plan. Condition of title. The Township shall convey good and marketable fee simple title to the property to redeveloper or his designee at closing by delivery of a bargain and sale deed free and clear of all liens, assessments, restrictions, encumbrance, easements, leases, claims, or rights of use for possession, mechanics, liens related to the actions of the Township or other title objection except those matters that are reasonably acceptable to developer. The rest is pretty much pro forma. At the closing, the Township shall convey title to redeveloper subject only to the permitted exceptions in the event that the Township fails to remove any unacceptable matter. And by way of further explanation, that's where, Mr. Solicitor, that I got the idea that the deal would actually be consummated by way of the transference of the property, because in this agreement it says at the closing. I don't know of any other closing other than the closing that we discussed last Wednesday by way of
The closing that will take place will be for the transfer of the land and then also the closing on their financing as well.
Right.
Correct.
And just to make it so that we're abundantly clear, I think that this redevelopment agreement explains the title and the transfer, that in fact the Township of West Hampton Township never owned any property that was assessed or valued at $720,000. And for the purposes of the complicated funding structure, it required a 5% component. The way the deal would work out would be simply, we at that time, I can remember, we were raising taxes because we were in austere times dealing with the economic downturn of the day, that this was the only way that it could happen. By way, because it was tied, the deputy mayor was right. We did have 28 units. and I'm in full agreement before we consummate this or whatever we're going to do tonight, that all of, and I want to be perfectly and abundantly clear, that all of the affordable units should not be in District 1. Mr. Harry McVeigh, who was a former planner, him and I, we talked at length about the burden of putting homes, or all of our affordable housing in District 1. And quite frankly, if the Woodmont deal had already gone through and those apartments, those high-end units had already been built, I think it would be safe to say that District 1 and District 5 would have affordable homes in it. And that goes to our assertion that all of the affordable homes should not just be in District 1, they should be spread out across West Hampton Township. Now, the same thing would happen, arguably, when we begin to talk about where we're at in District 2, where we're at in District 3, where we're at in District 4, and we were able to find it by way of District 5 because 28 of the 456 units would be affordable units. This body actually talked and negotiated ad nauseum with the Woodmont people because we further wanted to make sure that any reasonable person driving into that development, the Woodmont development, would not know where the affordable units, in fact, would be. We wanted them spread out and undiscernible to the naked eye. We were told because of funding, we were told because of the way this deal had been put together, that in fact all of the affordable units would have to go in one of the buildings. And save for cosmetic differences on the inside, you still would not be able to tell that unless someone was to go out and say, that's where the affordable people live, there would be no way to discern that. Further explanation, this body has worked hard with our solicitor firm to make sure that District 1 receives no more. I know that with Mary Beth Lonigan, the special master that has been assigned to West Hampton Township, that Catholic Charities wanted to enjoin themselves in the master's decision because they own that property on the other side of where the big warehouse in Spring Meadows is, and they wanted to put some additional housing, affordable housing units over there. This body said absolutely not. We were in full concurrence that we did not want that, and as a matter of fact, I actually sent 3 conditions to stipulate why, in fact, Catholic Charities should not be enjoined or allowed. We received notice that the judge stipulated that they could only come in from, and Mr. Solicitor, if I'm wrong, please correct me, from an observer's standpoint, not an actual litigant, if you will, or an interested party. Only
Correct.
Okay.
You're entitled to observe at this point.
Thank you. Only from an observation standpoint. I want to further clear up and just make it abundantly known that even with the Ingerman development of the 72 units, in a perfect world, and I think that the movement of the day back in 2014, it was simply COA was while it wasn't as what it once was, there was some concern and conversations about West Hampton Township meeting its affordable housing quota. To that end, there at that time was some discussion whether this area or this Ingerman development could even see some 480 units. Now we're talking about something different because now you're talking about from an inclusionary standpoint, you would be able to put market rate units with some affordable units, and that's what we will bump up to. It was determined that 72 units of affordable, and since it was a 100% affordable project, that a qualifier would come in and we would actually receive credit for some 144 units. I would simply say that And as I stated last week, hindsight being what it is, and perhaps being a little bit more savvy in terms of how pilots should be constructed, we could have done better. At that time of the day, back then, the primary onus was that we meet our housing stock by way of affordable units, and that was the prevailing rule of the day. So I just wanted to add some clarification, if I could, and some additional history to where we were with all of this, and I would like to open it up to my colleagues at this time.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak to that. I'm going to couch this with the following. We all at times agree, and the last 2 years we've agreed more than we've disagreed, believe it or not. And we've done some good work in 2016. We've done some good work in 2017. But what we can't do is share what are factually and truthfully half-truths to get to a truth. We just heard, the commentary that, 2014, although COA was not what it was back in the day or at one point, they were a little aggressive and heavy about getting to the numbers that we needed to get to. I'm looking at multiple articles here stating that affordable housing activists and advocates are demanding Supreme Court intervention because for over 7 years, the Council on Affordable Housing has been inactive totally. So how can an inactive council aggressively advocate or push for anything? It's inactive. So much so that the Supreme Court of the state of New Jersey was sued by housing advocates to force some type of relief. So we can't, again, get back to, making them facts or suggesting that COA was reaching out to the township, because there was, I give you all my word, zero communication between this township and COA, because it was inactive. I've opened the emails, I've checked, they don't exist. What you do have are affordable housing activists and advocates advocating for more and more and more and more and more affordable housing. And what you had was a township governing body that came up with a number, and they said it to the press. I read you guys the article from 2014 that said we're committed to 220 units of more affordable housing in this township. Where did they come up with this number? So I just want to be clear with all the residents here, all right? There's no such thing as the Council on Affordable Housing right now. They're inactive, all right? The Supreme Court is in charge. They've been inactive we're getting close to a decade now, as far as how long they've been inactive. I don't know if it's more upsetting to know that the governing body and prior committees and some current members have engaged in negotiations with developers, and that we've taken on, we're not talking about a block, we're not talking about a few hundred feet, acres of land on Wood Lane Road, made some type of deal. We don't know what are the terms of the deals are. We don't know why we accepted the land. Residents asked, we heard from everybody tonight, we don't know why we accepted this land. We know that the redevelopment agreement tells us that we owe the land. We got to give it to someone. We all clear on that. We're clear on that. I'm clear on that. But what was it for us? What was the benefit for us to take on this land? And so I don't know if it's more upsetting that the fact that your governing body, your township, takes on acres of land, makes deals with developers that are not in writing. There's no contracts. There's no stipulations in agreement. They make an agreement with another developer that now that agreement, because it truly benefits that developer, is in writing, every detail, and that we got to give away something to them. I don't know if that's more upsetting, or the fact that now we're up to giving property in lieu of a credit that we should be paying to this developer, 5%, which should total $720,000 that this developer is going to accept. Now, I would be okay moving forward and, sucking it up. The decisions were made. We're all elected officials, right? We came in here not to point fingers, not to blame, just to move forward and act. I'd be all for that if we were real with the people, and we were honest instead of playing what had happened was, which is what we're doing right now, all right? The fact of the matter is, and the solicitor can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm in the New Jersey Guide to Affordable Housing in New Jersey. This was revised on April 1, 2016. It says for those that are seeking federal, state credits, right? And we all heard, I think, from the attorney the last meeting that they're getting a bunch of credits. It says for tax breaks to developers to encourage them to build income-restricted apartments. At least 20% of their units must be affordable to people at or below 50% of the median county income, or 40% must be affordable to those at or below 60%. So, Al, does that sound pretty right?
Yeah, it's moderate and low income.
20% at least. All right? It says here 20% of your units must be affordable to people at or below 50% of the median county income. We're all clear? 20%. Then it goes down and says, or 40% must be affordable to those at or below the 60% income line. All right, so we're talking about whenever somebody wants to develop anything in the state of New Jersey, due to the Council of Affordable Housing mandates, which came about through the Mount Laurel State of New Jersey ruling, all right, it says if you're going to build 100 units in this state of New Jersey, 20% must be dedicated to affordable housing. We're all clear on that?
Yep.
Right? Then it goes down to say, or 50% or 40% must be affordable if you're going to go by those that are 60% beneath the federal poverty line. Let's calculate the numbers here, and this is why I said my theory, it's proven itself. Woodmont, we all agreed already, was going to build roughly around 456 apartments. We're clear? 456 apartments. Let's do the math. What's 20% of 456 apartments?
80?
That's 91 units. So the developer of the luxurious apartments was responsible for how many units, ladies and gentlemen?
90.
91 affordable housing units for low and moderate income folk. And the developer, what did he say? I don't want 91 units of low and moderate income folk in my development. Are we clear? This governing body then said it's okay, we'll build it in District 1. And I read the minutes, right? And you heard the redevelopment agreement the mayor himself read, which then tied both projects together, where the developer is getting the credits of affordable low-income, moderate-income housing that's being built in District 1 on Wood Lane Road, in lieu of the lack of numbers he should be building in the Woodmont project near 541. Is it clear? If we were to hold them to 40%, if they were going to go to according to here, it says 40% must be affordable to those at or below the 60 percentile. That developer owed us 182 units of affordable low, moderate income housing. And I remember we had this conversation in what we now know was an illegal closed session. It should have been a public workshop, where I stated, why are we letting some rich developer off the hook for building more affordable housing for low and income people? And wouldn't it be great that we have more low and income housing mixed with luxury apartments? Right?
Yes.
Because I think low and income and moderate folks have access to the same pools, the same barbecues they were going to benefit, the same dog walks, the same everything that they were going to recommend. So why are low income and moderate income folks weren't good enough for the Woodmont development, and this governing body approved and said it's all right, build it in District 1, and we're going to put all the low income people together 100%. Okay? So that's my theory, and I would respect my colleagues more, and I'll even vote for anything and keep it moving, right? Because the decisions were made before me. If we looked at residents to the face, kept it 100, and we're honest. We told the developer they had a concern and we were going to lose the development. And these developments bring hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in permitting fees. It's going to bring hundreds of thousands of dollars in ratables, and we need this development. And so we have to negotiate. And this was the best deal we can come up with. I respect that. Because you're being honest to me. And you're telling me the truth. And we'll move on. But what we're hearing here tonight is, you know, what had happened was, and I think was, and we've got nothing to show for it. So tonight, we're about to give up land that the township owns. And the only document that has been presented to me is a document prepared by a township solicitor, who I made clear in the last meeting, who's gone around negotiating these same deals for this same developer in other towns. And we already told you about the lack of integrity of the solicitor that we had before. So the only document I have is that contract that benefits that for-profit developer that tells us we owe him this land. I've got no other document telling me why we must give him this land, what was the deal, why we took this land. And so we're supposed to go ahead and just vote and give up this land that's owned by the township. You know, I'm uncomfortable with it. I'm not trying to be confrontational. I'm not trying to upset anybody. But I think you guys want us, when we're up here, to guard for your house, to guard for your tax dollars, to guard for your well-being with every fiber that we got. And if I got to upset some folks in the process, too bad, so sad. Don't vote for me. And those that like what I'm doing, you know what to do when I'm up for re-election. That's at least the job I think I need to do, and the job that I promised I was going to do when I was elected. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the totality of the facts and the numbers.
I would add that when we discussed the Woodmont development, and we discussed, because we had a second bite at the apple.
Yes, we did.
We had a second bite at the apple, and many of you may remember we packed the place out and we talked about the Woodmont development. That first bite at the apple wasn't as good as it could have been. I agree that, in fact, if we can get a second chance, a second bite at the apple by having new committee members come on, by all means, it's in the best interest of West Hampton Township that we do it. We further negotiated a lower number on the pilot.
A higher number.
That's right. Okay. A higher number on the pilot, meaning that over the lifetime of it, we would be to the better of some $2.5 million, if my numbers are correct. We had talked about and actually got additional enhancements, if you will, from the developer for our seniors. And what else did we get? We asked for something.
Money for the recreation.
We got a lot.
For the pool.
No, $50,000 for recreation department. The recreation department had some urgent needs in the pool. The concern is, I'm not in question of what we got. I'm just trying to see if I'm jiving any memories.
No, you are. And I think it goes to the point that when we had a second bite of the apple, I think it's germane to bring up that we actually did try to negotiate on many fronts.
I agree with that.
That if, in fact, the requisite number, or could we extend, could we add more? We had negotiated, could they be spread out more? We understood that instead of the marble countertops, that they would give us the regular, you know.
No, I hear you. All I'm searching for tonight, and I think what the residents are searching for tonight, is just an acknowledgement. We got the Hovnanian land because the Woodmont developer did not want to build the amount of affordable units he should have built, and in exchange, he gave us this land for free, and we said we'll build more affordable housing on Wood Lane Road.
Okay, so I think that it's important to just simply ask the question, Mr. Solicitor, do we own a piece of property right now?
Yeah, you own it, but it's obligated to go to Ingerman.
Okay, so conceivably, in understanding some of the concern that's in the community, could we say we just don't want to do the deal? We just want to, we'll default?
I mean, you can, but legally, you're obligated to do the deal at this point, so it would create problems if that was the vote.
We're obligated, but what the folks are looking for, and many, and I see the eyes here tonight, they just want the truth. And we should just give them the truth. They deserve the truth.
Yeah, but that's what I have a problem with, because the truth is almost suggesting that we're lying. What are we lying about?
I would like to comment, and I can tell you that I do know the truth. And the truth is that there's been a lot of turnover. We have 3 new committee members that are up here that weren't here over 2 years ago. We have a new solicitor. We have new professionals. And we also just went through a change with the township administrator. So for anybody to sit up here and speculate as to they know why one developer did this or one developer did that would be a half-truth. I don't know the answer. I want to fix it. I don't want to sit up here and point fingers, and every time I hear some of my colleagues talk, they keep pointing fingers. That's all they're doing. I wasn't here, like I said, and we're here now, and I'm trying to move forward. So we can continue to beat a dead horse, and I'm sorry, Mr. Lopez, or Deputy Mayor Lopez, I don't need an explanation, but they deserve the truth, and you know what? Let's find it, and let's get there.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, but good for us that we have 2 committee members that were here when the deal was made. And I don't know about them. I want to know, how did we land up with over 60-some-odd acres of land? And how is it that we now have to give this land away, and I have no contract, no document telling me that I must give this land except the one that was prepared by the developer of Ingerman, co-signed by a solicitor that we all have already agreed upon we don't trust?
Well, I don't know about all that, but I do know that right now that agreement obligates us to give it to Ingerman.
That is correct.
So we're in agreement that we have to give it to Ingerman?
I'm in agreement that you guys locked us up to a deal that we have to give this land away. I'm just concerned that I don't know why.
Well, I think that,
And so real quick, every time we come into these problems, the same excuse plays out. If I knew what I do now back then, I wouldn't have locked us to that. And now that it is what it is, let's not point fingers. Let's not investigate.
Mayor, I think what you can't do is, you can't ask for clarity and transparency, and you get it, and then later on chastise that clarity and that transparency. I spoke to it last Wednesday, and I spoke to it tonight.
All right, so I'll tweak my question. Committeewoman Talisa and Mayor Daniels, you're the most senior members on this governing body. Can you please tell me why the Woodlawn developer, a for-profit developer that was going to build 456 luxury homes in our township, his requirement of building at least 91 affordable units in those luxury apartments, why were those requirements waived?
I don't remember the exact answer, and I don't remember that, I don't remember the answer. It was 4 years ago. I don't.
Okay.
And I'm not going to sit here and make up an answer.
So can you guys answer?
For a gotcha moment.
No, that's fine. So can we,
Okay,
he answered, wait, yeah, you go ahead. You were
No,
gonna
let him finish.
No, he just finished.
I'll have my turn. Go ahead.
No, he just finished. He said he
Oh,
answered
I'm
the
done.
question.
Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, no, go ahead. You wanted to say?
All right, and then the second question, he said he doesn't have an answer for, as far as why this developer was waived, his requirement. And I'm only hitting this hard because, again, these developers come in this town and they want to run this town. They want to tell us what they're going to build. They want to tell us what streets they want dedicated. They want to tell us what streets they want open. They want to tell us where the trucks are going to go, where these trucks are not going to go. And what I'm saying is that we've had enough of this. And we need to have these answers answered. So the first issue, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for trying to answer that question. And my last question is this. We took on this land. Does anybody remember, Committeewoman Talisa and Mayor Daniels, does anybody remember why did we take on this land? And what did we get in exchange for taking on this
I
land?
tried to explain this last Wednesday, but you were so grandstanding that I think you probably missed it. So I guess I will repeat it again, and I have several residents that actually reached out to me. I don't need to have a town hall meeting. I don't need to have, my name and advertise and having a meeting. I mean, I have residents who are comfortable enough where they call me on the phone or they stop by my house, so I explain it, and I've been explaining it many times. I should have written it down. But back several years ago, and this is before you were living here, so you would not know this. But back then, and I did explain that.
What year was this?
Oh, I would say maybe like 2011.
I was living here in 2011.
Oh, you were,
I was.
2012, but I don't think you were really involved in, or you were. Okay. Well, at that time, COA it was together, and we did have numbers. The towns were given numbers of affordable housing. Ours was, I want to say 614. But then things happened, and it kind of fell apart, and it wasn't COA the way we knew COA from like the last 15 years or from the Mount Laurel decision. So at that point, we had X number of affordable housing. Our number was 614, but we knew that would change because we didn't know what the state was going to do. But they were going to, if they were going to change it completely, if they were going to have different policies and procedures, didn't know. But the reason that we were interested in Ingerman and Hovnanian and Woodmont was for the fact that if we started to bring some affordable housing into the town, we would not be affected like some of the towns who said, no, we're not going to have affordable housing, not in our town. And they actually took it to court, they lost, and they had to have inclusionary complexes. And we're talking like maybe 200, 300 affordable units. We didn't want to do that. We just figured we'll do affordable housing, but we would spread it throughout the town. And, eventually we would hit the number, if ever came to that, whatever our number would be. So we were always in good standings with COA and the Fair Housing Authority. So with Ingerman, we actually went to look at their places. So it wasn't like, okay, they just came in and showed us some pictures. They had some very nice developments. One's in Woodbridge, one is in, Manalapan, that's it. Beautiful, beautiful. They don't look like low income. They're very, very nice. Woodmont came along. It's a little sketchy there where I don't remember quite how they came in because they wanted to do apartments for maybe like young kids out of college, maybe that lived and were raised in West Hampton, could afford to live in rental units. They knew their virtual at some point would be coming through. We were thinking of like with the hospital, doctors, nurses, professionals, but then also with the units. 14, I don't remember that, but I know we ended up saying that they would do 27. And Hovnanian is the one that had the land. We didn't have the land. So that's how it ended up to be behind Home Depot, would be the one area, and then Ingerman would be in District 1, and that was his land. So we decided that it sounded pretty good, and so forth. We decided to sign the contract. However, through no fault of our own or through Ingerman, but there were some problems with, I think, the sewer lines, Al.
Yeah, the sewer service.
Connections.
Sewer
So
service.
that's where the delay is. Otherwise, this would have been done last year. And now, I mentioned earlier, and then Mr. Lopez said that he did mention it two meetings ago. Woodmont is shaky right now. TD Bank owns the property, so we don't even know if that's going to come to fruition or not. So I think we've been as pretty transparent about it. And I don't know what else you want me to say.
Since you asked me, I'd want you to say what are your thoughts about the $15 million at minimum that the residents, men, women, seniors, single mothers, anyone who's struggling to hold on to their homes are going to have to pay to cover?
$15 million.
I'm going to tell you where I'm getting $15 million. Here's the calculator, and it's coming out real quick. She asked me a question, I'm responding. Ingerman says they're going to bring 45 school-age children ages K through
But see,
12.
I don't have 45. That's where you and I are.
You have
We
45.
don't have the same
We-
numbers on that.
We have 45. We both agreed to 45 last week. All right, 45 times $13,000
29.
equals, it's not 29. It's 29 ages
Oh,
K.
yeah, do you have the numbers? But do I say K through 12?
I have it readily available. I'll pull it up for you.
I actually thought he said so last week.
I'll put it up.
But just for the sake of argument, let's say 45.
Yeah, the number is 45.
I think he said that last
All right,
week, too.
and the total comes out to,
I think Wilson said it.
the total comes out to $585,000 a year, and again, that's if these children are not special needs. $585,000, and you can huff, Ms. Pettis, and puff all you want. There's a lot of residents that are concerned about this. Ms. Pettis, this is my time. Ms. Pettis. Ms. Pettis. Ms. Pettis, when your huffing and puffing is louder than the one with the microphone, public comment's not now. So 500, Ms. Pettis, if you're going to keep interrupting, we're going to have to ask the police to escort you out. $585,000 per year times 30 years equals, my numbers were wrong, $17 million. $550,000 just to educate the children alone. The developer is only paying $35,000 per year. What are your thoughts about your residents, your neighbors, who are going to shoulder this? $17 million.
I don't believe it's going to be that much money with the taxes. We don't pay all the taxes. Maria, can you explain how the taxes work, where...
Someone's got to pay for it.
A certain percentage.
Who's going to pay for it?
What do you mean? The per pupil adequacy?
No, yeah, but he's saying it's...
No, look, if,
And there's 6.8%
I'm not going to
every
dispute
year.
the veracity of the deputy mayor's numbers from the perspective. And here's the truth. Here's the truth. If 50 children are realized, year one, okay? If 50 children are realized, year one, and that number remains static through the lifetime of the pilot, every year, 50 children, fine. But we also know sometimes communities, there's ebbs and flow. What was the number that was denoted of how many kids would go to the high school?
the total number of the children that were going out of the 45 students, I don't have the breakdown, but it roughly came out to the majority going to Holly Hills in the middle school and the balance going to the high school. Right now, if we were to look at Project Freedom, Project Freedom estimated just 11 children for Project Freedom. To date, we've had a total of 38 students enrolled in our local schools. The breakdown for Project Freedom is 6 students are enrolled in the high school, and the balance are enrolled in Holly Hills in the middle school.
So my point is just simple as this. Without this development being built, and for argument's sake, notwithstanding the numbers that we've clearly realized from Project Freedom, we don't know who's going in there. If those numbers were realized over 15 years at 50 students without any ebb and flow of census in terms of who moves in there and how many children they have, that would be a true number. But we don't know. It could only be 20 children. And what we were told at the time that I made the decision, that only 20 children would come in the district, not the other 30 children that has been added over the years. Moreover, I would add, when you asked me the question, and I'll go over it again, it was under conveyance. Subject to the redevelopment meeting, its obligations as described in this agreement, the township as a participating jurisdiction agrees to convey the property to the redeveloper at no cost. The parties agrees that in addition to the property from the township, redeveloper may receive a funding commitment from Burlington County through its home program. The township has agreed to make such contribution in order to qualify for local support points under the NJHMFA Qualified Allocation Plan. So it was perfunctory. Moving right along.
Well, one other thing, you act like we're never going to have ratables in this town. And you're almost like putting the fear in the residents.
So we spend money we don't have?
But we don't know if that's going to be the true number, so what, we do nothing about it, and we become like one of the other towns where we have litigation? I pulled this up because I knew I had it on my phone. The New Jersey Supreme Court, towns must now have affordable housing. This is dated January 19th, 2017. In a decision that could reshape hundreds of communities, the New Jersey Supreme Court ruled Wednesday, so I guess that was January 18th, that municipalities must allow the development of affordable housing for poor and middle-class families whose needs were ignored for many years. So it's here to stay. And honestly, listening to you, it scares me. Why are we frightened? It's unknown, but we have to have this. We have to have affordable housing.
What's the number, Trish? What's the number?
Well, here you had 29,
No,
and then you had
no.
45.
What's the amount of affordable housing we need? Tell us. Educate us.
Oh, I don't know. I left my crystal ball at home, and I'm impressed how
There's
you would know the numbers.
There's a relative.
Nobody knows the numbers for sure.
No one knows the numbers. Our point.
We will be getting ratables. So
Well,
don't
just
feel
to-
like this is it. This is doom and gloom, because that's what you do at every meeting. It's not necessary.
What I would like to add is, originally, the ordinance was read. There was a motion for it, it was seconded. The discussion was about this ordinance. And then someone took it and jumped on the turnpike and went to outer space. We're not here to discuss the project, the agreement, the redevelopment plan, the solicitor, the township administrator, what he had for breakfast that day. It's irrelevant. We're here to talk about the ordinance. And to be honest with you, I'm embarrassed because it's like a circus up here. And I want to apologize to everybody that wanted to leave an hour ago and been talking about this for 20 minutes, or 30, maybe even 40.
I just apologize.
And that's all that I want to say, and I'm ready to vote.
I apologize that you don't share the same embarrassment that we took on land.
Not relevant to this
We're
ordinance.
giving away the land, and we're spending X amount of money. But I'm ready. We can call the vote if no one has anything else to say.
Now, there's a few things, because I want the public to be clear, because everyone has different ways to adjudicate and serve their constituency, and I'm respectful of that. Knowledge is power, access to it is power personified. But it's important that the record reflect, because we have additional people out here. I know that phone calls went out and social media was bandied about, and we got it out here. I just want to reassure people in West Hampton Township that we are not going to go bankrupt tomorrow, that as I stated last week, we've been around for over 150 years. I would assume that we all will expire and the township will still be here. But it's important. It's important to know that on June 24th, 2014, certain communities have staples. And I would just simply say that one of them has been Miss Janet Kern. The second staple has been Mr. John Mumbauer. And back on June 24th, 2014, the public could comment on agenda for Resolution 8214, which basically consummated this deal. Ms. Curran, she would even talk about, and Ms. Curran, to her credit, she brought up that there may be some impact on children in the district. But she would also, she wanted to know, had there been studies completed on the property, the block 401. The solicitor at that time, Mr. George Sapanaro, answered that some environmental studies have been completed. The township is township is fortunate. The township is fortunate to be able to have brought in this developer, considering the number of COA. So you can see, just 4 years ago, even by the attorney at the time, he was referring to or using the terminology COA. Units the township is required to provide. Ms. Curran asked, is there a wetland study been completed? He stated that they are working on them at this time. She doesn't believe that our township can afford more children coming into our schools, police officers, so on and so forth, or for the public works. She would rather have an office building there, and I actually now remember you even saying that. George explained that the township has an obligation for COA units. The developer will be paying for the units. The estimated number of school children was 20. I would go on further because I believe it's germane, and I want everybody to understand the fullness thereof. I don't think that as a mayor, as a person who has a fiduciary obligation to all of you, I would be remiss if, we're deep in the woods now. So let's go even deeper. I'm okay. I've already stated that at that time, the prevailing urgency simply was compliance and compliance. So I'm okay with not using COA terminology anymore. But there was a constitutional mandate, the law of the land, that had to be complied with. So while it's true, COA as an entity is no longer. While it's true, we may not have a definite number of units that West Hampton is supposed to have. We do have some guidance on where we may be at. And I go to a letter that was sent by our attorney, Mr. Brian Schatz, regarding the potential for settlement of West Hampton Township's declaratory judgment action. The township administrator, Maria Carrington, received a phone call back on February 6th from Mary Beth Lonigan. She's our township's special master regarding the township's interest in potentially settling its declaratory judgment action. The declaratory judgment action seeks judicial confirmation that the township's housing element and fair share is constitutionally compliant. If the township were to settle its case with the Fair Share Housing Center, it would receive judicial certification of constitutional compliance upon review and approval of the settlement by the court. Again, while we don't traditionally, or while we no longer call it COA, in the past, the standard offered by the FSHC in settling declaratory judgment actions was a 30% discount off its experts, Dr. David Kinsey, July 2015 report, specifically from the prospective need obligation. Dr. Kinsey's report had the following obligations. This is where some of the numbers came up. The July 2015 report was 6 prospective needs or units in West Hampton Township was 613. October 2015 report, 613. May 2016 report, 649. As you will recall, the courts have not yet decided upon a statewide third-round methodology. Therefore, the township's actual affordable housing obligation remains unknown. According to the Supreme Court's 2017 decision on the gap period, the housing need generated between the years 1999 and 2014 still existing, needs to be addressed in New Jersey municipalities' third round. In that ruling, the Supreme Court directed that the gap period should be calculated as a new aspect of present need. In the chart above, Dr. Kinsey includes a calculation for the gap period within a prospective need calculation. And I can tell you, other than, and it goes on, and there's actually a breakdown, but for time factors, it goes on to existing mechanisms. It talks about Rolling Hills, Spring Meadows, affordable units, prior round, and those numbers. It goes on to talk about Family Service Group Home in West Hampton Township, RCA, Mount Holly, Project Freedom, proposed existing inclusionary Orleans at one time, but that went under. The Turtles, surplus, that talks about all of that. I can tell you, just reading this to you gave me somewhat of a headache. To understand the complexities that Mary Beth Lonigan and the judges and everyone that's involved in this is why we obviously have an attorney especially dedicated and a specialist in this area. All I can tell you is that at some point, members of the NAACP and others would sue and simply say that all communities in New Jersey should open up its housing stock for those that could at least afford to live there. And that they should find ways in which everybody could in fact enjoy the American dream and understand a little bit of hope and opportunity. So please excuse me if I messed up really, really bad 4 years ago, and I didn't take into consideration perhaps that what Ms. Curran said could come true 4 years later, and the number given at that time was 20. I thank you, Ms. Curran, for having the due diligence at that time to tell Trish and I and the other members of that body at that time. But the reality of it was just you that came to this meeting. It was just you. I wish in hindsight we had a packed room like this to help guide us. I stand or make no excuses. Perhaps, if our salary or our stipend was a little larger than $3,710, $800 a quarter, perhaps we could put in a little bit more time. I arguably am able to give a little bit more time to this body simply by way of being a retiree. But it's a part-time job, and we have to rely on the experts that we all hire, to include you, that we all hire to guide us and effectively point us in the right direction. And hopefully we can discern from that and with input from our residents where we should go. I agree with the Deputy Mayor and others that we should not be afraid to join in lawsuits. Lawsuits are crapshoots sometimes. Sometimes you win them, sometimes you don't. My reasoning last week, and I just wanted to make it pure and simple before I vote on this, simply was I did not want to be arbitrary in saying no from the perspective of telling them that you are now in default, when effectively a cure period of 90 days existed, meaning that they had all the way until the end of August to consummate this deal. So it was going to happen anyway. Now, I agree with the Deputy Mayor. If we had just a little bit of light that would have demonstrated that perhaps this deal with Ingerman was somewhat tenuous, like the Woodmont development is right now, then perhaps some legal threshold would have existed for us to have an escape clause to say, well, we don't know because you don't know because TD Bank, in fact, owned this property. So, in hindsight, when you're on this side of the desk, sometimes things are made aware of to you that you're not privy to on that side of the desk. And I don't like dealing from the bottom of the deck with any of my colleagues. I don't like to play gotcha politics with any of my colleagues. I think the only thing, arguably, any of us can do when we raise our hand to serve a community is to try to do the best that we can do. Anything less than that is called breach of our fiduciary obligation. And perhaps some malice can be attached, and perhaps there's recovery. But I think we all know in this room, to include the Deputy Mayor, doesn't make me stupid, didn't make me dumb like some of the things that I've seen on social media, incompetent, and all of those things. It didn't mean that because I made a decision based on the evidence and what was demonstrated back in 2014, that today I should some kind of way, absent tomorrow's election, yield my seat tonight. I don't think anybody sitting here in your day job would expect that kind of conduct or treatment to you in the discharge of your duties. I don't know a perfect person, and I'm surely not one. So I just wanted to make it abundantly clear that, up until this moment of time and space, teamwork has made green work has been the prevailing law of the land. Ultimately, you all will be the trier of who stays or who goes. I just want to get back to adjudicating and moving your government as you see fit so that we don't have 10 o'clock meetings or 10:30 meetings, because it really doesn't serve your best interest. What serves your best interest is moving forward. I appreciate, and I used a word, and I don't know whether it's been taken playfully or was taken serious as a pejorative, but I used the word rabble-rouser. And rabble-rouser, from my perspective, is not necessarily a bad word, because some really good women in history were known as rabble-rousers, and because of that, they would move the condition of this United States of America. So if someone called me a rabble-rouser, guess what? I'm a rabble-rouser for justice, because we would have the 19th Amendment as a result of being a rabble-rouser. So I just wanted to explain that. I'm okay with the deputy mayor. I think that we all grow a little bit more when we have some of what we have tonight, and perhaps we had to hit the reset button and thoroughly put it all out there. Thoroughly put it all out there. Ostensibly, we own nothing in terms of property. I wish it were as simple as that, because if it were as simple as that, I would ask my colleagues up here to band with me and let's stand on principle. Let's hold $720,000 up so this deal will not be consummated, and tell them to sue us. We want to negotiate a better deal. Then that's leverage. We have none. I'm not going to go on social media tomorrow night and tell you how anybody else here may have done well or messed up. Because once we take the vote, it's done. All we could do is do better the next time around. Try to be that thing a little bit more perfect. I appreciate everybody up here, their time, their effort, and what they put into it. I am not the smartest person in the room, and because of it, you are better off that way. Any other comments? Roll call. Did we move that?
Nope.
Yes.
We did? I didn't hear.
Roll call.
I have Talisa and Wisniewski.
Oh, I didn't hear them.
Lopez,
Abstain?
Smith Hartman,
I'm going to abstain because I want to find out how much they've been paying in Texas. I'm not seeing anything.
Talisa,
Yes.
Wisniewski,
Yes.
Daniels.
Yes. Moving right along to correspondence. Mount Holly Municipal Utilities rate hearing 7/15/17 rescheduled from 6/18/17. I would, before any resident leave, ma'am, sirs, I would respectfully, we're in community mode, and I thank you for heeding. Do you want to elaborate on this, Mount Holly Utilities Authority? I know that I just recently saw something by way of Lumberton. Is this a meeting that we should potentially?
Yeah, this is a meeting that every resident who lives in Deerwood, any resident that lives in Torrancefield, I think parts of Holly Hills and Rancocas Road, you'd want to attend this. There's been another notice to the township that the Mount Holly Municipal Utilities Authority is planning to raise your rates again. The situation of concern is that it's been documented by the Township of Lumberton that the Mount Holly Township governing body has been raising or consistently increasing the payment in lieu of taxes that the Municipal Utility Authority pays. But what's interesting is that the Mount Holly Municipal Utilities Authority is made up of committee people and political appointees of the township governing body. So essentially, they're raising the rates of themselves, and they're charging the ratepayers, us, to subsidize their township budget, among other concerns. So residents that have expressed concerns about their sewer bills, and you want to be heard, that's the opportunity.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
You're welcome.
Dates to remember, Tuesday, and thank you for staying. Dates to remember, Tuesday, June 6th, 9 a.m., that's tomorrow. Tree dedication for fallen state trooper Sean Cullen for the Sentiments Post Office, 2496 Route 130. I will be joining myself, I believe, Chief, will you be there? Chief and other members of our police department will be there for that. Wednesday, June 7th, 7 p.m. will be a land development board meeting right here. I would tell you residents, I would respectfully request everyone in here to be here that night at 7 p.m. We will be part and parcel, amongst other things, hearing an application for a super Wawa that will be on the corner of Wood Lane and Springside Roads, and another restaurant that will be adjoined to that property. Saturday, June 10th, this Saturday is a fishing tournament for all ages at Ironworks Park, presented by the Recreation Department of all RV, RHS, and districts. Registration form available from the Recreation page of our website. Sunday, July 16th at 9 a.m., Torranceville Swim Club's first annual Bill McGee Memorial Master Swim Meet. Do you have anything to add to that, Maureen?
No, I don't.
No? Okay.
Except Phil McGee was a former policeman, and they live in Outer Woods.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, I would like to open the meeting for public comment. Sorry?
Rory Hustis, 14 Canobie Drive. Just a suggestion. Could we get a committee together to check you guys whenever you get into deals to make sure you're all on the same page and we don't have any of this ever again? Is my last comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? I'm sorry, ma'am.
Karen Turner, Sherwood Lane. This is going to be short since I was told that these meetings only go usually for about an hour. And it is almost 10, and I've been a resident here 20 years, and I just started coming to meetings again, and it reminds me why I stopped. I just want to say a few things. I think it's a good idea to have town meetings. When I became re-engaged, it was because of the town meeting that I attended last, 2 weeks ago. And so I made a suggestion on the website that perhaps what you all could do is rotate. I think that would be a good idea. I don't know where you live, so I'm not going to stop by and have a conversation. I think that's a good place to come. Last week we had a special meeting. I attended that. I'm not quite sure why we kind of revisited all of those issues again, so I just want to say that. The reason why I am standing up is because I can't enjoy my house. I live near the drainage area that is at Sherwood and Wickham. Last night I was walking my dogs with some of my neighbors. We were standing in front of that drainage area, and we couldn't stay there long because of mosquitoes. For the past 2 years at least, I have not been able to enjoy my backyard. The water is stagnant. It is not moving. I don't know what happened this year when several of the trees were cut down. It's awful. I don't know if you all have driven through Tarnsfield, that part of Tarnsfield. And, there is a drainage area where the water is red. I'm here to talk about mine. It looks like I need to get my neighbors together to come over here and complain about their areas. But I have had conversations. I want to make sure that something is being done. I have called. I have talked to at least 2 of you. I'm not the only one, but I'm the only one who's been sacrificing my time to come out here. And so I want to put it on the record, because I'm going to be holding you all accountable. We do have an election tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I would add, and I would tell you that after that town hall meeting that night, that I did stop by, and the property has been reported to our Public Works Department. I do know that the deputy mayor has also doubled down, and he included me in the email that also went to our township administrator and to the director of public works. I personally have come out, and I can corroborate what you're saying, to include some, I saw some trash area. That was some cups and so on and so forth that was thrown down there. And I thought it was just your street of Sherwood, but that drainage ditch actually goes over at least 4 or 5, and it would appear that somewhere it's either jammed, or I don't even know, at one point did it actually... It's been a long time since it flowed? Okay. So please know that we are looking into that, of how we can mitigate the problem and move forward. And since it was the deputy mayor's town hall, I'm going to veer to him. I do know that he also included...
I worked with Committeeman Wisniewski, who's the liaison to the Department of Public Works, but I have a recommendation, and quite frankly, with the permission of the mayor as chair of the meeting, I'd like to go ahead and just make a motion that we have a resolution tonight to have the township engineer, and the township would absorb whatever cost it is to have at least a 1-hour site visit. No more than an hour, cap it at an hour, so that we can have the township engineer provide us with a professional recommendation on what's the problem, what needs to be done. I know that the committeeman has seen it already. I know that our director of the Department of Public Works has seen it already, and there's a difference of opinions on what the problem is and what needs to be done. I think we solve that all with having the township engineer take a look at it.
If I could chime in here, Ms. Turner, I had sent you an email earlier before the meeting today. It was at 6 o'clock, and I specifically asked for your phone number because I knew that I said it. I don't remember word for word, but I said I didn't know if you were definitely coming. We were supposed to meet before the meeting, and just in case we don't talk, and I wouldn't have been surprised if you had left early. I wanted your contact information so we could touch base. I spoke to the department head of Public Works. He said that they're trying to get a plan together because the basins all around the retention ditches do need some TLC. They have to remove all the trees and everything that are growing in there. They started it. They're a little undermanned right now, and they do want to stay on top of it. He had suggested against the engineer getting involved at this stage. So what I would like to do is at least come by and talk to you, or come by with Mike Meenan, and talk about it. But as far as right now, he's trying to work on a plan so that he can have a crew dedicated for all the retention basins and ditches.
If the resident is inclined to have me withdraw my motion for the engineer and the professional, I know there's been ongoing communications and it's been going on for a few months. I subject my motion to the requests of the resident.
Before she answers, the department head, Mike, had suggested, so you have all the information, he had suggested that the engineer not get involved, township engineer not get involved, unless he was going to evaluate every single one. That was his opinion. So that's why I would have loved, I came here, Maria saw me here, I came here at 6:30, I came in early, I didn't get a chance to talk to you before, so again, we can go for a resolution if Mr. Lopez would like, but.
No, I subject, We can't send? No, I'd rescind if she'd want me to rescind. I know these talks have been ongoing. I know there's a disagreement in opinions of the township director, yourself, and the resident. And to bypass all that, I'm not opposed to investing 1 hour to look at this one drainage. My concern right now, and the concern that I'm hearing, it's not for all drainages in town, it's just this one drainage. So, exactly.
But there is a problem with that whole area. But maybe looking at my one, like at least open the door to some ideas for the rest.
What Mr. Meenan is doing is pulling some information from the Stormwater Act, and he wants to make sure that he's compliant, the township is compliant. So when he gets more information, and he gets crews, because you had said that they stopped working out there and just didn't have the manpower, so they're still going to get back out there, but there's certain limitations to what he can do and cannot do. And I understand with Deputy Mayor Lopez is saying, but at the same time, if we make a resolution to come out there for 1 hour, and somebody else is going to come up here next week and say, hey, I need the engineer at my house for an hour, maybe a half hour, you know what I mean? So it's a slippery slope. What I would like to see happen is Mike follow through with this, and we can have a discussion and go from there.
Hearing the recommendation of the committeeman in charge of the Department of Public Works, I'll rescind my motion, and we'll give this to the next meeting. Good?
But I'm diligently working on it.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other public comment? Stoll?
I own a business that started in the hours from 11 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the morning, and I always had to be there. Now, with this wood mine, I know you guys voted, and that's all over with. I just want to get an understanding here. With the wood mine, is that builder the same builder of the other property?
No.
Was that in any way, did the wood mine project have to be completed and done before the other project could move forward?
No.
No.
No. Okay, that's all.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Sir?
I'm a resident also.
Can you just state your name?
My name is William Allen.
So, how you doing tonight, sir?
I've been to a lot of political meetings and rallies and township meetings, but I've never seen one where an elected official, when addressing a community resident, gets where it's personal, where it becomes a tit for tat. And I think that's something where you can have your position, but it shouldn't be where you're trying to make your point by grandstanding or belittling the resident. And I believe Mr. Lopez, Ms. Stills, apology.
I hear your recommendation. I disagree with you respectfully. I think when an elected official is speaking, and it's not public comment time, it's the courtesy of the elected official to say his piece, as the elected official allows any resident to say their piece uninterrupted. So that same courtesy is expected of the public for the residents. But I do hear your concerns about tone and tenors of meetings and about taking things personal. I don't think I grandstand when I advocate for my neighbors. And I think it is fair to say that I and many in this audience take it personal when we're going to shoulder over $60 million in burdens for no reason. So it is personal to me. And frankly, I do get upset about it. But thank you, sir.
In response to that,
Yes, sir.
I think you didn't hear a word I said, and I think you're just tone deaf. I believe you are concerned about the financial agency you bear, but there's no excuse for being rude.
Thank you, sir.
Sir?
Joe Velasco, 73 Fieldcrest Drive. The mayor said that we have to learn from our past, and one of the most recent developments was the Freedom. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that supposed to be veterans at first, at one point? And then, of course, you dumped...
Freedom Village?
Freedom Village. You dumped...
It was dubbed as disabled.
Disabled, right, with no kids allowed, and then you dumped affordable housing in that area, in that District 1. And...
It was disabled, then it became disabled vets, and then it became open.
Yeah, it became, one version of the truth to the next. That's fine. But you expected 11, Deputy Mayor, 11.
11.
And 11 school-age children. How many are there, in fact?
38 right now.
30. So you're expecting 20 in this new one. And why do you not think it's going to be 60?
Yeah.
You thought it was going to be 11, now it's 30-something. I've been to other meetings, and I know you want to buy the schools, and the schools are getting overcrowded, and you're just building more and more, and
What I would tell you, sir, and you bring up a very good point, and the fullness thereof, when that first began, circa 2008, 2009, those
don't even
conversations...
care.
No.
You said you wanted to learn you learned from your past. It's done. They're built. I saw them. I see them. I drive by them.
I'm trying to answer.
They're built.
I'm trying to answer your
Okay.
questions. We were told that it would be a 100% disabled community,
Mhm.
and I was on board with that 100%. However, the state came down with a decision that simply said that we could not discriminate that way along disability reasons, and in fact, we would have to accept.
You missed my point completely.
Okay.
You missed my point completely.
Okay.
So it got to versions of it. But they said, we're going to have 11 school-age children. And it's 30-something. Now you're saying, you don't know the number, but you think it's going to be 20. Well, you were off by threefold before. Why aren't you planning for being off threefold again? Learn from your past. You just said that's what you said. You should learn. We have to move forward. It's built already. I know. I understand it. We're not going to stop this. We can complain as much as we want. It's going to get built. I understand that.
Thank you, sir.
So why aren't you planning for 60 instead of 20, which is kind of laughable? Isn't it from the past, just from the most recent past? You're not learning from your past? Didn't you just say we have to move forward and learn from our mistakes? No one's perfect.
Are you looking for an answer?
I am looking for an answer.
Okay. Deal was done back in 2014. Yeah, I can't give you any additional answer than the answers that I've already given you.
What deal was done in 14?
The Ingerman development.
I understand it's going to get built.
Okay.
No, everybody can huff and puff.
Maybe.
Yes. You're projecting 20 people. You're projecting 20 school-age children. You're projecting 20 school-age children.
Okay.
You projected in the Freedom, the most recent one, 11. But in fact, there was 30. So how are you thinking, you were complaining, we don't know how many it's going to be. When Deputy Mayor was talking about the 17 million that we're going to have to shoulder. You say, we don't know how many people. You're projecting 20. Why aren't you projecting it more like 60 as opposed to 20? Because the most recent one is triple.
I think what you just said is correct. There's nothing we can do by way of hindsight. You're asking me to give you an answer on something that's already done. The only thing that we did tonight was just simply consummate a part of a deal, and I believe Committeeman Wisniewski was right. We were here for a simple matter that went far afield, and by way of fullness of transparency and engaging our community, we had discussion. You're asking me for something that I can't give you.
Right. I just said that people were chastising Deputy Mayor about his 11, and now...
I think we got your point of what
Okay. I wasn't sure because, some people are just... They started getting behind one end when it should have been on the other end. Okay.
Right. So his hand has been duly spanked and mine has been as well. Thank you. Next comment?
Olivia Allen, 35 Torranceville. I guess it's more like a question rather than a comment. But ever since we've been hearing more and more about the development over on 541 with the new hospital, I realize that's going to happen. We all know that. But I find it I don't know if that's pure coincidence, but I don't believe in coincidences, that this particular deal was being hot and heavy negotiated. The negotiations were going on hot and heavy right around that time that that proposal was being made to the township. What I want to know is, what was the reason that seemed to be acceptable to our township that that developer gave you for not honoring his obligation that he knew and the committee knew was your obligation to this township for that housing?
For the Woodmont housing, ma'am?
Yes.
Yeah. As I stated before, I don't remember. I have the meeting minutes from back then. I have the Land Development Board meetings from back then, of which 2 members that testified are here tonight. And I can't find anything that could jog my memory that speaks to why those units went away, or if they went away, or how it happened.
Well, allow me to, I don't know, just listening to what was going on here between yourselves, my neighbors here, and just back and forth in the papers. I mean, it's to me, it's just obvious that the whole thing hinged on whether or not you would still have a deal with this developer for Virtua if that actually had happened, if those affordable housing units had actually been pushed, if you actually asserted to this developer that there would be no deal without them. I think that it was colored by the fact that somebody was willing to sit a whole lot of money in the lap of this township in the form of development and in the form of whatever jobs they were offering you, or whatever, whatever sell job they were doing at the time to make it nice and sweet. But that all went out the window. The obligation to the residents, the obligation to my neighbors, myself, and a whole lot of other people. I own my house. I don't have to worry about having affordable housing. But I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about all those other people who might. Maybe my kids. Maybe your kids. I mean, the housing situation isn't getting much better for any of us. But there are some people out there who will never be able to realize that American dream, or owning a piece of property, or even renting in an area that they don't have to be afraid to have their kids play in. That went out the window when Virtua made its proposal. The time frame is, it's right there. It's not rocket science. We don't have to give 4 and 5 different reasons why it didn't happen. It was only one reason why it didn't happen. We saw the money and we took it. We saw the deal and we made it. I would have a whole lot more respect for you guys if you just admitted that. Because right now you're dancing all around it, but nobody's mentioning it at all. I think that was the biggest factor in this. Not that someone didn't do their due diligence or anything like that. When money is involved, I believe that you did all the due diligence that you needed to do, especially if it was going to come out where somebody that either you're related to, or yourself, or the committee, or someone else high up, maybe the developer themselves, of course, would come out on top. But it certainly wasn't the residents. Certainly not my pocketbook. And I'm sure my taxes will reflect that too. Because we don't know what kind of deal they got in taxes now, do we?
Who would that be, ma'am?
I'm talking about the builder. I'm talking about what kind of deal did you have to make in order for Virtua to come here, What kind of tax break did they get? What kind of tax break did this developer get that's supposed to be making this housing development?
I think I understand where you're coming from. And I think I understand what you're saying. I think that from an advocacy standpoint, I have always stood on the vanguard for those who least could afford to move into some communities that they would like to move into. So if it was solely from the perspective of making sure that those who least could afford the opportunity to move in West Hampton Township, that they would in fact be able to, I can tell you that was never a conversation that was enjoined from the perspective that I think where you're going. And if I had thought that that was the issue, I would have been an advocate and argued zealously and would have taken offense to it. And all of you would have known that I had taken offense to it because it would have been part of the record and part of the minutes. What I can tell you is we did not reach out to, as a township, reach out to Virtual Hospital. Virtual Hospital, on their own steam and by their own designation, was out looking for property. And
I get that, but I don't think that Virtua needed to do that. I think that was, it's like if you were going somewhere to look for an apartment for your daughter, which I've done, and you find an area that's decent, where you don't think that she would have to fear for her life or whatever. But the one thing is that, okay, you would have to pay an exorbitant amount just to have the privilege to say that you live here.
Understood.
Would you think that's fair?
No.
No. Okay.
And I would agree with you.
Why would it be acceptable to you for someone to say to you that I don't want them living here, and I won't build here unless you allow me not to have that here? Why would not, I would want to know what is the thought process that you had, or anyone else, of sound reason would be able to say to themselves and reconcile that in your head that it's okay, knowing that this was the obligation that he would have to fulfill, meaning the developer would have to fulfill, in order for them to have their deal, regardless of where the land came from. It wouldn't matter who gave the land, but but you read that. You read it. You sat there, sitting here for 3 hours. You read this. I don't understand why it's different now, day before the election, than it was back in 2015 or 16 or whenever this happened. I don't get that. If I were doing that and I was at my job, I think I wouldn't have a job.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's
ma'am, what I can tell you is that, if I could,
you're making this sound like a small oversight, and this isn't a small oversight.
I agree with you. It's not a small oversight, but this is what I would tell you. And what's in dispute is the deputy mayor's numbers of 89 or 90. I didn't get a chance to review the data that he was researching, and in fact, and I take it that his testimony was truthful admission of what he was looking at. But what I would also tell you is, based on this piece of paper from our Mr. Brian Schatz, our COA, and again, I use COA very loosely, that Woodmont development, and that's the development that would have gone over on 541, that the prior round numbers was that Woodmont redevelopment should have 56 units in there. The affordable units based on this formula, COA's no more, was 28, which is what is going to actually go over there. Okay?
28 or 50?
56 was prior. 56 was prior. The township had nothing to do with these numbers because we were, in fact, being sued Because from a constitutional standpoint, we were being told we don't have enough affordable housing units in West Hampton Township.
As we should have been sued.
Okay, so, well, every town, for the most part, was sued. So affordable units for West Hampton Township for the Woodmont development was 28. Moreover, ma'am, I would also say that back on June 14th, back in 2014, when we executed to authorize the redevelopment agreement, my statements back then were the same as they are now. Mr. Daniels truly understands the public concerns. He likes to think the West Hampton Township can be an affordable destination for people. He would like to see young people come back to our community. It may be an opportunity not only for our children to return, but for others who may be out there. And I believe that the language, because we do not put specific language in these, we just basically summarize that I would like to think that my children who would go off to college and would like to come back and make West Hampton their home, even at that time, there were no real opportunities for that to happen, that perhaps through this designation, they would have that opportunity.
That's noble, but the thing is that in the end, bottom line was, he was allowed to do this. He was allowed to say, well, we don't want them here. You could put them over there, shove everybody into that one little space over there, concentrate your poverty, maybe make a permanent underclass group over there and keep them there, instead of spreading this out, whereas you would be a part of the greater community, rather being pushed into a little cubbyhole out of the way, and of course nowhere near where all the nice development is going to go on 541 and Wood Lane Road down where you plan your town, where all of this is going to be planned. But we're getting 28 beautiful units. You know, that's something, right?
No, I don't disagree with you at all. As a matter of fact, I took demonstrative steps to make sure that our attorney, through Brian Schatz, our attorney, that you're right. District 1 should not have to have any more affordable units.
Yeah.
We should do all we can to make sure our affordable housing units are spread across the community. Much to his credit, I agree with the deputy mayor. We're looking at the master plan.
So my question is, and this gentleman sounds very much like a lawyer to me, but what I want to know is that if that's the thought, if that's the spirit of what you're saying right now, and what you've been saying to these good people back here, if that were true, then if I were you, if I were in your shoes, and I really didn't have anything to lose, why not make them sue me? Why not say, we're not going to go through with this deal? Why not vote no? Why not say, unless you comply, and I don't mean just in a cursory manner, but comply fully with what we want to do as a township, what our vision is for our town, not some developer's vision of what he wants it to be and where we should live. And I'm telling you, I've been here since '96, so I'm not a newcomer to West Hampton at all. I've seen our township change and move and go in different directions and sometimes just stay still, just stay stagnant or whatever. I understand we want to develop too. We want a nice municipal complex with the hospital over here and all these other amenities that you see in these other townships and in the larger townships. Sure, I guess we all would aspire to be Cherry Hill, whatever. But the fact of the matter is, if you really want your residents to be proud of where they live and their kids to come here and say that we're proud of where we live, yeah, we'll come back here where our parents are or whatever, you can still have your Virtua, you can still have your complex or whatever, but make them also contribute. If you want to develop here, then you contribute here.
Okay.
We have to pay taxes here. We have to pay taxes for what goes in over there, no matter what, right? Exactly.
Ma'am, please know that there's the Woodmont development and there's the Ingerman development.
Yes, I know.
What was on the table last week wasn't about the extension of units or that we were building fewer units. It was just to consummate a deal where we had given previous extensions because more time was simply needed. So for argument's sake, one of the things that we said, and it was brought up by folks in the audience, and in my admonition to the developer, I simply said that perhaps, and we can't enforce this, that you will make a requirement that those housing stock go to residents or second generation members of the West Hampton community first and foremost before we look elsewhere. So I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Then in response to what you just said, that leads me to my next question. What assurances have you or this committee or anyone else involved in this deal made to make sure that if once this deal goes through, that you held his feet to the fire? What assurances do we have that the obligation, as small as that may be, will be honored by this developer?
The obligation, ma'am, is constitutionally required. That
But so was
an
a greater
economic-
number. But so was a greater number of units in regard to this, right? So was a greater number of units, but he still got away with doing much, much less. And even though that number was constitutionally required as well.
If I can, through the mayor, real quick, can I answer your question? You're 120%, 150% right. Many times with these nice deals for developers, no one holds them accountable to see through what they said they're going to do. So we introduced, or I passed an ordinance that was just adopted in the city of Jersey City that does two things. Number one, it says that anytime affordable housing is created, the residents of that town should have first dibs to those affordable housing, because we all have children, we all have parents, we all have grandparents that need access to affordable housing. So we should have first dibs. Secondly, it creates an accountability system for the town hall to monitor that all the affordable housing that should be built in this said development must be built. And if they're not built, what are the repercussions for not building these affordable housing? So that's all in that ordinance that I presented to the township administrator, which I believe now the solicitor has it and he's reviewing it, and we're going to be presenting that ordinance soon.
And how will you address the concentration of poverty that this deal will be creating for the other development, which will be over in District 1? It seems to me that that seems to be the only spot that affordable housing is being built.
Right.
There was already affordable housing in the Springside development. Now with Freedom Village, also over on the other side of Wood Lane Road. Right, exactly. Now you want to propose a fourth area. You're concentrating poverty. You're making sure that you're creating a permanent underclass, an area of permanent underclass in this township. And it's appalling. It's appalling and it's sad. And you shouldn't be doing that in 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Allen.
I just want to say she's correct in that fact that she.
Ma'am, can I have your name, please?
She said. The thing that's disturbing to me mainly is that it sounds like this is the first time that people. Oh, I'm sorry, Jane Phillips, 58 Sharpless Boulevard in Spring Meadows. The thing that bothers me the most is that I've got a memory recall. At the time, I wish that I could have been more active and showed up and said, hey, what did you do about this? But I want you to look up for your records. Well, first I want to say what I don't like. I don't like that it feels like, well, this is the first time we're really, really dealing with all these developers, and we just made a big boo-boo and all that stuff. Well, guess what? There was a boo-boo before this. And that boo-boo was in Spring Meadows. And recently, if everybody remembers Spring Meadows, how you get into the development, there was water that was reaching up really high, about 2 or 3 feet. I called it into Willenboro Authority, Water Authority. They came, and of course, we had to get that whole area replaced, which is when you're turning into where the townhomes are. Okay. Well, I had a flashback of knowing how something played a part in that breaking. And that was when they were putting together the last part of our development, which dealt with the field and the tennis courts and the gym equipment or whatever you want to call it, the playground and stuff like that. All of a sudden there was all these dump trucks. It was like the dump truck mafia appeared. They were like 3 going in, filling up, leaving, and 4 were coming in, and they were going so fast, and they were just taking dirt out of that ground. And I'm like, what's going on? It's already past it where they started to, basically, something happened where the township made them have to go back and put the dirt back, because then they turned around and they were bringing it back. Now, my memory serves me that this has really happened because I witnessed it, but also like a ton of dirt I was right directly across from that area where the pathway is, and it was flying into our houses, and we had tons of dirt located. So what I'm just trying to say is I don't really know the ending to the story, but the repercussion is that sewer area, what happened from those trucks going over, after it all happened, because I was a fussy homeowner, I saw how it was starting to dip in that area, the concrete, and it bothered me. I didn't say anything about it because I thought, well, maybe there's somebody from the township that comes out and looks at why these trucks were just, taking all this stuff away. So, the bottom line is 10 years later, 6 years later, we could still feel it getting deeper and deeper, going down, and here we go, we have a water break. And that's all I can say but my main concern was that, you guys are coming up here and I'm getting that feeling that we never had problems with, we didn't know how to react to developers and stuff like that. Well, we had a problem then, and I'm curious how it was solved. I mean, it was hearsay that I, thought that they brought it all back. I saw it, but I just know it happened, and there was a repercussion and a cave-in of the thing, which I account to that. And that's all I can say.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips, and thank you for calling me earlier today on this same issue. So moving forward, if there's any other open comments, and I know the mayor has been very accommodating to all of us and to the crowd as well, so we're going to stick to the 4-minute rule. Mr. Mumbauer? Or 3 minutes? 3 minutes? Go ahead, Mr. Mumbauer.
John Mumbauer, 29 Lancaster Drive.
Yes.
Regarding the developments and all that, and the concerns of how many children are going to come in or whatever, just for knowledge, what I understand what's going to happen is, once that contractor gets the permits to break ground, our school system can go to the state and they get like a survey done. The state will come in and take a look at the size of the development, how many rooms, and all that kind of stuff. And the state gives the school district a number of what they estimate the population increase will be. And I think that's the other shoe that's going to drop, because between that and Project Freedom and maybe Woodmont, whatever, $13,000 was to educate children, but it didn't include infrastructure if we need bigger schools or whatever. So that's another thing that could drop. And finally, my last thing is the Mount Holly Utilities Authority, the rate hearing. I really need to keep our eyes on these folks, in my opinion, because they're not transparent. They charge us $2.25 to send us our bill. They charge Mount Holly $1.50. I don't live that far from Mount Holly. I'm right off of Rancocas Road. So that's just one of the charges I'm concerned about with these guys, not to mention that they charge us for, the rates for per gallon of waste and sewage, and I understand other towns have had issues, other bodies from these other towns, and I would advocate that our committee people get with these other townships, and let's get some representation, some eyes. I want to see how they do business over there, because, you know, our water bill is pretty high. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other public comment? Sir?
Joe Lasso, Fresh Drive. The mayor made a comment about the goal of spreading it out, and that their plan is to not put more in District 1. Since you pretty much dumped 90 to 100% of the obligation in District 1, is there even a possibility of more low-income housing in District 1?
As I said here today, no.
Okay.
You're welcome, sir.
Ms. Curran?
Good evening.
Good evening.
To Council Felisa, I'm here tonight also. My main goal is staying here and missing my Phillies tonight, but hearing the bickering, to apologize to you to what I said the last meeting and I walked out. I'm not sorry that I walked out, but I am apologize to what I said. And I did it for a reason, because you and another council member would look at each other and smile, and especially one would grin when a resident would walk away from here and sit down. That kind of upset me. I mean, a little smile, but not a grin that, you know, what's this resident talking about? And I watch people, I watch their expression while you're sitting there tonight. So again, it was just the idea that was eating inside of me, is that you would look and smile and just have a grin. And I'm not against smiling, but it was just your reaction to another committee person looking at each other, smiling and grinning as a resident would walk by after talking. But I'm also here tonight for what I'm hearing again tonight that I heard last Wednesday. You're bypassing, you're going back 3-4 years ago, but yet you have everything in front of you that took place. But then again, now we find out new information that we can make a change with this first reading tonight. And what you approved to do, you're putting us back in a hole again when we had the opportunity to get out of it. So, you know, why did you vote yes? I don't know. Did it come from your heart? I know there's things that our solicitor tells us, or we have to listen to what is right to vote for, that we have no choice because we hear lawsuits. Well, I'd rather have a lawsuit, and maybe other people feel, of course, different than I do, but I would rather have seen a lawsuit than to go back to where we are right now. We have a second reading on this in 2 weeks to make this right. Andre, Trish, Andre, well, I'm not going to go there, but we have worked together in this township for many years. I've been here all my life, and I love this township. And when I see the things changing, I accept it. So we have to hire, every time, I'm not against affordable housing. I've heard of 2 incidents that happened out there. I see some things that I don't agree with. And I said before in front of the planning board, is this going to be a 24/7 watch? This puts added burden to our squad, our police officers, our firefighters, and everyone deserves a place to live. Everyone. I mean, they're scraping their money together to live where they're living right now here in West Hampton, and it's difficult to get to these people and help them. So voting yes tonight, I think, is a big mistake, because you had facts put in front of you. Going back 3 or 4 years ago, I understand where you're coming from, but look at what the facts are today. I look at that up there, you know, established 1850. I live in a house that was built in the mid-1800s. And I mean, to this township and where I live and the people that I grew up with and know and what we had, let's slow it down a little bit. We don't need affordable housing. I know what the state says, but we have more people in this township right now that need our help, and we're going to help people that are going to move into the affordable housing, as we already have for the handicap. A lot of things have changed, but what I'm trying to say is that your vote tonight wasn't the way that I would have voted, and I'm not sitting there in your seat. I'm not in your place and putting you in a tough disposition. But watch what you say and listen to what you say, okay, to the residents. And I know you're listening to the residents, but that vote tonight, disturbed me very much. I might be around another 10 years. I hope to be. Most people see me coming and they think, oh, here she comes.
No.
But, I mean, I love this township, and I know what it was, and I know what it can be. But let's look at what we have in front of us here tonight. Let's go back, put it on the table, if it's possible, because we'll have a second reading next week. Don't give things away, not with what we've learned tonight. Don't give it away. Let's fight for what we have left here in our township. The hospital, the sports complex, and all that. I'm not against the sports complex, but it's the hospital. It's not bringing us anything. Many people have already said they're leaving. I won't be at the planning board meeting Wednesday evening. I'm sorry about that, but I will make that one up. Only because of Wawa, and I'm not against Wawa because it's one of my second homes. But I just wanted to say, my grandson's being awarded on Wednesday night, receive a reward. So I'll be there, but if I can get to the planning board meeting afterwards, I will be there. I'm not against Wawa, but I have a couple good ideas. Not that anybody's going to follow through with it, but I have some ideas. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Rosalind Lockley, and I've been a resident of West Hampton since 1993. And this is kind of embarrassed to say, but this is my first township meeting. I just want to go on record as saying I'm sort of bewildered, surprised, appalled. All of these different emotions from what I've heard tonight. However, this will not be my last meeting.
Yes.
I will be back.
Good.
And I hope that my impression of my elected township officials will improve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Close the public.
It's the quietest thing I've spoken for. I hope that no matter what, I'm concerned that there's so much negativity. And no matter what happens, I'm hoping that you take what some people perceive as negative and some perceive as positive and make a positive out of it. Otherwise, people and businesses aren't going to be crazy about coming into West Hampton. We're saying we need rateables. We don't need vacant homes, which you're aware, right in my community there are some. We don't need these things continuing in a way that folks don't want to come here because of all the issues that they perceive exist. They're not really aware of the details. A few months ago, there was a push to buy the Friends school buildings because, and one of the things that was pushed was because of some of these projects, there would be an increase in the numbers. If folks had received that positively, and if they had looked at and been committed to, everyone had been committed to, okay, we're going to get people to come in, get these businesses to expand and grow, instead of infighting or fighting amongst ourselves, even as citizens, I think the attitude would have been more positive, and hopefully those things would have happened. The school would have happened and other things. There was the concept of leasing it back until the estates was needed and then converting it to a school. There's another way to look at things, and I think we all need to get committed to looking at things more positively and directing things in that way, or else we're part of the problem.
Close the public comment. Moving right along, department head, professionals, chiefs? Fire marshal? Mr. Solicitor?
Nothing here.
Township administrator? Marion?
She's gotta be here at 6 a.m. to open the poll.
Here before 6 tomorrow.
Okay, I don't think anybody on Township Committee should have anything to say.
I do, I actually do. And I'm sorry, but I feel like this is something that I have to say. One, I want to apologize to everybody because we've been here for 3 hours and 40 minutes, it seems like, and it didn't seem that productive because we were bouncing around all over the place. I do agree with everybody saying we need to learn from our mistakes. I'm sure nobody's perfect. Nobody of government is perfect, so hopefully the learning curve could be faster instead of being 4 years later, we fixed it. Maybe it could be, you know what, a few months later we realized we made a mistake and try to correct it. I agree with Mr. Allen. The deputy mayor was a little rude to Mrs. Pettis. She did not interrupt him other than sighing or gasping. She didn't stand up and say anything. So I do feel that speaking to people like that and threatening them to be escorted out, I think that was a little uncalled for, especially when I sit up here and I have to endure when people take shots and say stuff. And I understand it's my position, but she didn't come here today to be threatened or kicked out or escorted by the police. And other than that, I'm sure the department heads and everybody else got to get up for work early tomorrow, so do I. But being that I'm first, and I know that there's some people following me, hopefully we can make this last till 11 o'clock. So, next.
Absolutely not.
Come on, Trish.
Okay, good night.
Well, somehow I felt like the department was slighted tonight. So all I want to say is thank you very much for another 2 weeks of wonderful service in protecting the town and residents.
Just want to say thank you all for coming out, all the new faces, the testimony of the resident who's been here for a number of years, and this was the first meeting out. Clearly, we're doing something right if we're getting new faces every meeting coming to this town hall. This is the second consecutive meeting where there's over 20 folks coming out to the meeting. So thank you for coming. You're welcome. This is your town hall. We can agree on issues. We can disagree on issues. We're neighbors. This is your home. This is your house. You pay the bills. You pay the lights. Keep coming. Do not be shy to ask any questions. So thank you for coming, everybody who came out tonight.
Good night.
What the deputy mayor said, and thank you. Have a good night.
Motion.
You got about 15 minutes on it.
I'm just leaving this copy for you. I got this.